An unseen person asks if the job is finished, a gun resting atop the cup. The killer, a man in a rabbit skull mask, stands over the bodies, complaining that he has to kill people while trying to eat his meals. He's known by many names, like Killer and Assassin, but his dinner is just instant noodles, again, eaten casually over his latest victim's body. As his colleague finishes the job, he complains that his noodles are undercooked because he used lukewarm water. These killers, known as humanity's natural enemies for their incredible talent, have simple desires. He just wants to eat something delicious for a change. He asks his partner if any restaurants are open at dawn, but the man reminds him they work night shifts. The killer contemplates his limited options as they arrive at a solitary building, where a single window glows warmly against the darkness of early morning. His partner asks why he doesn't cook, but the killer only has work knives and finds the idea uncomfortable. When asked about ingredients, his entire pantry consists of canned tuna, canned ham, and strangely, canned kimchi. His partner insists that even with those ingredients, mixing them together to make rice balls is perfectly edible. He drops the lumpy rice ball onto the floor, looking down at his clumsy creation and calling it pathetic. His partner asks for a verdict, but the killer bluntly states it just tastes like rice and ingredients mixed together. A slow smile spreads across his face after tasting his creation, and he decides he should probably buy a cooking knife. He sits alone, pondering whether the food is delicious because it's warm, or simply because he made it himself. From that day on, he started cooking at home after every job, a simple routine that soon evolved into a genuine, consuming hobby for the deadly assassin. He quickly discovered a surprising truth about his newfound passion. The art of cooking actually requires using knives far more often than his gruesome job of killing people. He came to a profound realization that slicing vegetables was infinitely more fun than slicing people, which led him to an unbelievable decision. He's quitting to become a chef. He acknowledges that dealing with ordinary people is difficult, and he knows that being self-employed will be tough. He stands before a crowd of his former colleagues, remarking dryly that this seems like a pretty brutal farewell party. His old partner steps forward with another menacing figure wielding a massive chainsaw, reminding him that he should know the steep price of retirement from their organization. The company begins a process called settlement for any employee who applies for retirement. It's a procedure designed to destroy all talents and skills related to murder, ensuring they can never work again. To neutralize the retirees' abilities, their body undergoes a horrifying procedure. Their muscles, nerves, and organs are systematically and appropriately destroyed by the company's doctors to cripple them completely. This is done so the traitorous retiree can never again perform the company's work of murder. The list of injuries is extensive. His right lung, ligaments in his knee and ankle, spinal nerves, vision, and major muscles and organs throughout his body were all targeted. He desperately asks when he can cook again, but his hand won't even move. His former partner coldly informs him recovery will take decades, or more likely, a lifetime. His colleague asks if the hospital food is delicious, but the crippled assassin says he didn't think so. Years later, snow falls gently on a small, isolated restaurant. The lights are on, suggesting a warmth and life that contrasts sharply with the cold, empty landscape surrounding it. Inside, a large, sizzling steak is served. A woman asks someone named Jin Seonu if she can really eat all of it. A young woman with a bright smile exclaims, "Of course!" as she eagerly prepares to dig into her meal. As she cuts into the steak, her friends comment on how thick the slice is, laughing together at the table. The chef's scarred hand gently corrects her grip, explaining that you don't cut meat with brute force. She notices the strange scars on his hand, but he quickly tells her to look ahead, not at him. He demonstrates the proper technique, explaining that when using a knife, you should push and then pull smoothly. With a single, fluid motion, he slices the entire steak into perfect pieces, shocking the young woman. He introduces himself as the head chef, but a violent memory flashes through his mind, a blood-soaked grin from his past life as the assassin, Blade Rabbit. Snapping back to reality, he corrects himself with a wide, unsettling smile. He throws his arms open and introduces himself not as an assassin, but simply as Goya. Goya introduces himself with a wide, unsettling smile, his chef's whites stained with what looks like blood, a stark reminder of his violent past. The customer nervously asks if he's bleeding, but Goya brushes it off as a blender accident before urging her to eat. She takes a thoughtful bite, Suddenly, her eyes widen with absolute delight as the incredible flavor of the steak hits her. She shouts that the food is so incredible she wants to dance, an enthusiastic compliment for the chef. Her genuine, radiant smile shows just how much she's enjoying the meal he prepared for her. As he watches her, a faint, sweet aroma catches his attention, pulling him from the moment. His eyes widen slightly. It's a scent he's never encountered before in all his years. He asks the customer about the delicious sweet smell, and she suggests it's probably the cake she brought. Goya asks where he can buy one, but she reveals she baked it herself. His intense gaze fixes on her as he asks if she's a professional chef. He considers her answer for a moment, then dismisses his curiosity and tells her to enjoy her meal. Despite leaving his old life behind, Goya is still intensely curious about the cake's taste, especially with the absolute sense of smell he honed as a killer, which has carried over into his new life as a cook. It's a surprising revelation for him that there's still a scent he's never encountered before, proving the world is full of new food to discover. He smiles to himself, amused by his new title of head chef, a world away from his former profession. His moment of peace is shattered when he sees a familiar face from his past sitting in his restaurant. His old partner, Owl, greets him casually, addressing him by his assassin name, Blade Rabbit, for the first time since he quit. Owl tells him to relax, mockingly asking if he's afraid he'll wipe out all 16 customers in the restaurant. Goya calls him rude for showing up without a reservation, but Owl ignores him, explaining he stopped by while on a job and introducing the man beside him as Goya's official replacement. Trying to maintain his composure as a chef, Goya asks if they'd like some wine, specifically an apple wine. Goya struggles to open the bottle, his crippled hands failing him. Owl mocks him, saying his body has really rotted away. Owl mocks his weakness, saying he looks pathetic and that even a kindergartner could open the bottle. Goya heads to the kitchen, stating that killing always goes better on a full stomach. In the kitchen, a regular customer tells him not to overdo it, reminding him his whole body is wrecked. The customer notes that he threw everything away for cooking, his scarred hands a clear testament to his sacrifice. She wonders if cooking is really fun enough to abandon everything, as Goya remembers the pure joy of creating a dish, a stark contrast to his bloody past. He proudly presents his signature dish, the Blade Rabbit-style Pablo steak, a name that merges his past and present. Owl is momentarily stunned by the presentation, prompting Goya to sarcastically ask if he expected rabbit stew instead. Goya passionately describes his creation, a tweaked recipe from Master Pablo featuring herb-marinated lamb with a wild raspberry sauce, served with a mushroom puree for dipping. Instead of eating, Owl throws a wad of cash onto the plate, completely disrespecting the meal Goya prepared. Goya's replacement scoffs at the idea of eating food made by a murderer, questioning what could be in it. A regular customer calls out the rookie for his comment. Goya argues that taste is all that matters, but the rookie stubbornly disagrees. Owl quickly apologizes for his new partner's rudeness. He hastily drags the rookie out the door, promising to come back another time. Goya is left alone with the uneaten meal. He picks up the cash, lamenting what a complete waste of good food it is. As the night deepens and the last customers leave, the restaurant falls silent. Snow begins to drift down from the dark sky, blanketing the isolated building in a quiet layer of white. The young woman thanks him for the wonderful meal. To his surprise, she casually hands him a black card to pay the bill. Goya realizes the girl is wealthy. She gushes about how good the food was, then offers him the cake she brought. Goya comments on the cake's unusual aroma, wondering about the ingredients. The young woman then offers to bake one for him. His eyes go wide with excitement. He eagerly accepts her offer, making a firm promise. The girl is confused by his intensity, saying a promise isn't necessary. He tells her he'll just promise by himself. Goya watches her wave cheerfully as she leaves the restaurant for the night. Goya stands proudly in his restaurant, already looking forward to tasting the young woman's incredible cake again. Meanwhile, the young woman and her friends walk away from the restaurant, chatting happily as a car waits nearby. Elsewhere, Owl sits in his car with the rookie, announcing that it's now time to get to work. Back at the restaurant, the snow continues to fall, blanketing the small, isolated building and muffling the world in a profound silence as the night wears on. Goya finds that scrolling through food pictures on Instagram before closing up shop is the best part of his day. Hooked up to an IV drip, he laments that there are far too many tasty things in the world. a constant reminder of the physical limitations imposed upon him during his settlement. He stares at his phone, wistfully thinking that, if his stomach hadn't been shrunk, he could have tried them all. A drop of blood falls. He hears a sudden noise. Startled by the sound, Goya cautiously opens a door, his body weak and sweating from the effort. As he opens the door, the same sweet, intoxicating aroma from earlier wafts in from the darkness. It's the young woman, out of breath and holding the cake she promised. Goya asks what brings her back so late. She says it feels like someone is chasing her and quickly locks the door. Goya calmly suggests she should call the police. She admits that she panicked and now thinks she might have been mistaken, trying to downplay her obvious fear. Outside, the heavy metal door stands locked against the dark, snowy night, a temporary barrier against whatever might be lurking just beyond the light. A voice from the other side confirms the door is locked, questioning why their target ran into this specific place. A loud banging sound startles them both. Goya suggests calling the cops, and the terrified girl quickly agrees. A tremendous bang hits the door. The metal door is ripped open. Owl and his rookie stand in the destroyed doorway. Owl casually says the door is now open, ready to finish their job. The girl screams in terror. Goya realizes their target is the rich kid, explaining why they were working in daylight. The rookie, with a menacing look, tells the young woman to come with them quietly as Owl watches. He adds a threat, warning her that they don't know what they might do if she resists. Goya grabs her hand, urging her to run, but as he takes a step, his crippled leg gives way. A sharp pain shoots through his ankle, a brutal reminder of the permanent damage inflicted during his, quote, settlement. She rushes to his side, asking what happened. He tells her his leg's been busted from the start and urges her to save herself. She looks at him, horrified and conflicted, before reluctantly agreeing to leave him behind as he instructed. Instead of running, she turns to face the assassins, confirming she's the target and offering to go quietly if they don't hurt Goya. He smashes the bottle against her head. Owl remarks that she catches on quick. Her surrender has saved them hours of hassle, and now she lies unconscious on the floor. Owl mockingly apologizes to the unconscious girl for using the wine bottle she brought to knock her out. The rookie suggests breaking Goya's leg to keep him from following, but Owl mentions there's a saw in the trunk. Goya asks if kidnapping and trafficking are now part of the job, looking at the girl's unconscious body. Owl confirms it's a 3-page assignment worth $300 million, noting that side gigs like this pay very well. He crushes the cake box under his foot, destroying Goya's promised treat, and remarking it's a world made for killing. Owl and the rookie drag the unconscious girl through the heavy snow, their figures retreating towards the waiting car as they leave Goya behind in the darkness of his isolated restaurant. As they leave, the rookie turns to Owl and asks him if he feels sorry for what happened. But Owl isn't talking about the girl. His gaze is fixed back on the restaurant, thinking about the student's cake. Inside, Goya kneels over the crushed remains of the cake, tasting a piece from the floor. He believes it was born to be eaten deliciously by him. The rookie clarifies if Owl feels sorry for Goya. Owl quietly admits he feels a little sorry, which ticks him off. The rookie asks if Owl feels sorry for the girl, but Owl insists it's about the ruined cake, saying half of tasting it is the visual presentation. Owl asks why he's picking a fight, reminding him not to hinder a coworker's job, but Goya simply states he's retired. Owl points out that they are still active while Goya is retired, weaponless, and trapped in a broken body, questioning what he could possibly do. The rookie stares at Goya's defiant stance, finding his interference incredibly annoying and a waste of their time. He reminds Owl that civilians are off limits, but suggests they can get around the rule if Goya obstructed the mission. He reasons that killing Goya here could be classified as self-defense, a convenient excuse to eliminate the nuisance who was once known by many names in their world. The rookie rips a street sign from the ground to use as a weapon. Owl apathetically agrees with the self-defense excuse. The narration reminds us that those born with a natural talent for hunting humans, like this rookie, were given a terrifying title: humanity's natural enemies. He swings the heavy sign, but Goya's hand moves faster. He slices through the sign. The rookie is stunned as the heavy metal sign is sliced cleanly in half before his eyes. Goya accomplished this impossible feat with nothing more than the flimsy plastic cake knife from the ruined box. The rookie can't comprehend how he did it with a plastic knife, especially in his broken body that shouldn't have any strength left after the brutal settlement procedure. The rookie attacks furiously, but none of his attacks land. leaving him completely baffled as to how it's even possible. Goya calmly explains the same principle he taught the girl. You don't cut with force, you push, then pull. He slices him effortlessly. While many assassins were called humanity's natural enemies among countless killers, there was only one who held the legendary title of Blade Rabbit, a testament to his unmatched skill. Owl watches from the car, sighing that even after the settlement, Goya is still the same. He knew it was over the moment Goya said cooks use knives more than killers. Owl sits in the car, figuring Goya probably won't actually kill the rookie, so he'll just finish the job and leave. A loud thud startles him. Goya stands over the cleanly sliced car, sarcastically remarking that work seems pretty similar even after retirement. Owl stares in disbelief, realizing Goya cut the car in two while lamenting that he was still paying it off. Defeated, Owl drops the unconscious girl in the snow, deciding to cut his losses and leave her behind. But Goya isn't finished with him yet. He approaches the terrified Owl and calmly orders him to open his mouth. Owl braces himself, thinking that Goya could at least use a real knife to finish him off with some dignity. Instead of a fatal blow, Goya places something in his mouth, leaving Owl utterly confused about what just happened. Goya asks if it's tasty, revealing he just fed his former partner a piece of the red velvet cake. He then turns to the downed rookie, forcing cake into his mouth while lecturing that food should be eaten with gratitude. Goya stands in the snow, plastic knife in hand, and gives a chilling warning. So don't mess with food again. He's not just a chef. He's a protector of his newfound passion. He turns his attention to the girl lying unconscious in the snow, calling out to her. She slowly begins to stir, groaning as she wakes up in the cold, snowy landscape. She asks about the assassins, but Goya tells her they left when he mentioned calling the police. Goya dismisses her questions, saying that's not important. He admits the cake is good, but that's not it either. The real reason he got involved was the delicious scent he first smelled. He reveals that the captivating, golden aroma he was so drawn to, it was her. The girl kneels in the pristine snow, turning to look back at him. A mysterious golden aura begins to emanate from her, visually confirming his strange and unbelievable words. She's completely bewildered by his statement, her eyes reflecting the strange golden light he sees around her. Goya confirms it again, a slight, knowing smile on his face as he focuses on her unique scent. He holds the flimsy plastic knife, the simple tool he just used to display his lethal skill. But as he gazes at her, his true intentions remain dangerously ambiguous and unsettling. He points the knife at her, his voice low as he clarifies the true source of the incredible aroma. It wasn't the cake he found so delicious, but her, the girl now glowing with a strange golden energy. With a sinister grin, Goya reaches out his scarred hand, telling the young woman to wake up. She stares at his outstretched hand, frightened and unsure of his intentions after his bizarre declaration. He struggles to pull her up with his weakened body, complaining about how heavy she is, while she yells back that he is the one being rude. Once she is on her feet, she gently takes his hand and sincerely apologizes for all the trouble she caused. She explains that she has always been the type to get kidnapped easily, but she never expected her pursuers to be so persistent this time, putting him in danger. Suddenly, Goya grabs her hand and brings it to his face, sniffing her skin with an unsettling intensity. She yanks her hand away, completely shocked by his bizarre behavior and demanding to know what he is doing. He ignores her question, sniffing his own hand and wondering why he can't smell the delicious aroma anymore. Thoroughly creeped out, she decides this person is just too weird and tries to leave, but Goya's sharp command to stay stops her cold, her eyes widening in renewed fear. He tells her that she needs to get examined first, explaining that he's already called a doctor to his shop. Goya adds that he'll also calculate the payment for the ruined cake, leaving the girl standing alone in the snow. The doctor arrives, a man in a plague mask named Andre. Goya immediately questions if he can treat patients while drinking. Andre ignores Goya and tells the girl to be quiet and raise her hand so he can begin his examination. He peers at her through the strange lenses of his mask, asking her what she sees while she sits nervously before him, a small mark visible on her cheek from the earlier scuffle. Suddenly, she feels like something is watching her, as Andre's examination reveals a supernatural sight. An X-ray view of her entire body, with a brilliantly glowing core right where her heart should be. Andre asks if her injuries are okay, specifically mentioning her head. The girl is shocked he knew, confirming he's a real doctor. Goya, however, realizes he never mentioned she was hit on the head. Goya asks the doctor why she smells delicious. Andre dismisses it, telling Seonu that a woman named Frida will escort her home. A blue-haired woman named Frida appears, putting a comforting arm around Seonu and leading her out of the restaurant. Now that they are finally alone in the restaurant, Goya turns to face the doctor, his demeanor changing completely. The strain of the fight finally catches up to him, and Goya collapses in agony. Andre reminds him of the consequences of fighting with his settled body, asking why he risked it all to save her. Goya, sweating and in pain, simply says he did it because of the cake. Andre finds his obsession with food unbelievable. Andre asks if the operatives were targeting her, while Seonu reflects on the strange day's events from the safety of her bed. Andre asks who the girl is, but Goya only knows her as the one who gave me cake, which shocks the doctor. The scene shifts to his school, introducing the girl as Jin Seonu, a seemingly ordinary high school student. Her typical breakfast is shown to be quite unusual: simple yogurt mixed with chunks of red ginseng jelly. Her classmates call her breakfast gross, but Seonu happily insists that her strange combination is actually really delicious. From a distance, Owl observes her through his fingers, pondering if she could really just be an ordinary high school girl. Watching her from a rooftop, Owl questions if she's truly worth 300 million. His partner confirms her parents possess more wealth than 3 killers could earn in a lifetime. Owl is surprised by this news. His partner sarcastically offers to transfer the high-paying job to him, but Owl says he'll pass on the payment as well. Owl's partner explains they're passing because the rookie is traumatized, now muttering endlessly about not messing with food. The man agrees to take the job, but he has one strict condition: the girl must be brought back intact. He ominously states that the standard for intact is subjective, as his form begins to dissolve into black smoke. Finishing his thought, he says the definition is different for each person before completely vanishing into thin air. Owl is left stunned that the mysterious man disappeared right before his eyes, a display of a truly unique talent. The scene transitions to a peaceful, bright day, a stark contrast to the dark events of the previous night. Seonu's friends rave about how delicious the food was at the restaurant, which they think was called Rabbit Hole. While Seonu seems hesitant about going back, her friends debate whether the chef was handsome, with one gushing about his long eyelashes and mysterious vibe while another thinks she's the weird one. After parting with her friends for the day, Seonu's classmate waves a cheerful goodbye, telling her to take care. Her schedule for the rest of the day is straightforward. First, she needs to stop by the academy, and then she'll head to a private practice room to continue her training. As Seonu walks alone down the street, the new assassin decides it's a good time to begin his work, his shadowy form materializing from the ground to stalk his unsuspecting target. Suddenly, she whips her head around, a flicker of unease crossing her face, as she senses something is wrong. She thought she saw a strange black figure following her, but the street behind her is empty now. Her imagination wasn't playing tricks on her after all. The shadowy assassin looms directly behind her, impressed that his target has such good instincts, a rare and interesting trait for a mark. She quickly glances over her shoulder. As expected, she sees no one out of the ordinary in the bustling crowd, making her question if she was just mistaken. From her perspective, it would feel as though the person who was chasing her has simply vanished without a trace. But the truth is far more sinister. The assassin is actually right there, hidden in plain sight among the pedestrians. This is Operative Daydream's unique talent, a top-level disguise that uses posture, outfit, and eye contact to instantly blend into the background, effectively making him disappear before your very eyes. His mastery of this technique is so complete that he creates the perfect illusion of not being there at all. Seonu dismisses her feeling, thinking she's just on edge because of yesterday's incident. Daydream notes that while she has good instincts, she is still just a civilian. He's confident she can't possibly notice his surveillance, but once again, she instinctively turns her head right towards him. He's forced to admit she has extremely good instincts. He decides a sudden operation in the crowd is necessary. While he could subdue her with a knife or a gun, he knows the fastest and quietest method for a stealthy takedown is an ordinary, unassuming ballpoint pen, the perfect tool for a master of disguise. Daydream's plan is simple and precise. He will initiate his attack the moment the pedestrian signal changes, using the cover of the busy crowd to stab his target from behind. His target is a precise spot between the left fifth and sixth ribs. The plan is to stab about 5 centimeters deep, angling the pen from the bottom to the top for maximum damage. The strike is designed to pierce the lung in a single, swift motion. The moment the lung is pierced, the victim won't be able to breathe, let alone scream, making it a silent takedown. With her lung pierced, she would be completely incapacitated from the shock, unable to fight back or alert anyone around her. But just as Daydream is about to strike, a familiar face appears right beside him. Seonu is surprised to see the chef. Goya just laughs, while Daydream is completely terrified, wondering how he got behind him. The chef explains he was following a delicious scent and just accidentally ended up tailing the assassin. Daydream chokes in sudden pain. Goya calmly asks Daydream how it feels. Meanwhile, Seonu, completely unaware of the silent confrontation, asks if his injuries from yesterday are okay, seeing the blood on the pen in his hand. She points out that it looks like a bad spot, but Goya insists he's fine and it doesn't hurt at all. Seonu smiles, but Daydream realizes the horrifying truth. Goya wasn't in pain. He saw through the surveillance, instantly broke the assassin's arm, and effortlessly took the pen before he could even react. Recognizing Goya's skill, Daydream identifies himself as a colleague subcontracted by Owl and tries to invoke company policy. Goya applies excruciating pressure, and Daydream immediately gives up, surrendering completely to the retired assassin's overwhelming power. Seonu asks if they know each other. Goya smoothly lies, saying Daydream is just a former workplace colleague they happened to run into. She then reveals that she knew the man had been following her for a while, confirming her sharp instincts. Goya is stunned. Seonu's comment reveals an impossible truth. She had somehow noticed the operative's presence, seeing right through his top-level disguise talent that should have made him completely invisible to a normal person. Goya suggests they rest for a moment, finding a quiet, snow-covered spot to take a short break from walking. Seonu asks if he needs to watch over her, but he says he's just waiting while she puts on a bandage. She explains her toenail broke while running away yesterday, and walking fast today tore it open. Goya remembers the doctor's examination, recalling that the girl seemed to be hiding something from them. Goya realizes the truth. Her toe wasn't just torn, it was broken. She casually apologizes for the smell of ointment. For an injury that severe, a normal person would need a wheelchair to even move. Yet, with that same broken foot, Seonu had somehow managed to run from trained killers for hours on end, an impossible feat of endurance. Goya is surprised to learn she's really that tough, especially since she was trying to protect him. She asks if he ran into her by coincidence, or if he was looking for her, but he dismisses the question as unimportant. He kneels down beside her, his attention focused entirely on her injured foot, which he points out looks incredibly painful. She's shocked, he noticed, asking if she looks like she's in pain. She was sure her expression didn't show it. Without any warning, Goya reaches down and gently touches his finger to the blood beading on her injured toe. He then brings his finger to his mouth and licks the blood off, causing Seonu to let out an absolutely terrified scream. She furiously demands to know why he's licking it, but he just laughs, saying it smelled too delicious to resist. She calls him a pervert, but he just notes that her blood tastes normal, much to her exasperation. He smells the air again, but as he savors the aftertaste, a violent flash of insight hits him. A sudden, bloody realization that connects her scent, her resilience, and the strange golden energy he witnessed before. He stands there for a moment, processing the new information, the taste of her blood still on his tongue. Suddenly, he collapses backward onto the pavement, his body going limp as Seonu calls out his name in alarm. Lying on the ground, Goya says he thought his head exploded. Seonu asks if he's okay, worried by his strange collapse. He stares up at the sky, his eyes wide with a terrifying realization. Her blood was just blood, but the golden, delicious scent he's been chasing is something else entirely, an ingredient far more precious and rare. Seonu tells him to stop grinning and answer her, but he's lost in his own world, laughing at his discovery. Goya looks at her, a strange obsession in his eyes. He declares that out of everything he has ever eaten in his entire life, the golden aura emanating from her foot is the most delicious thing he has ever encountered. Seonu kneels beside him, startled by his sudden collapse, and anxiously asks why he fell and if he's hurt. She offers him a hand to help him up, her palm glowing with the strange, delicious golden energy. He takes her hand, seeing the golden substance now coating his own fingers. It's tangible proof of her strange power, and he remembers the incredible taste, confirming it was truly delicious. Seonu is completely taken aback by his intense stare and strange obsession with her being delicious. He suddenly grabs her wrist. An overwhelming urge takes over him, a vision of biting into her neck and consuming the pure golden energy that he finds so irresistible. The desire is almost too much for him to control. She stares at him in absolute terror, his eyes filled with a predatory hunger she doesn't understand. His inner monologue reveals the depth of his obsession. He wants to eat more of this delicious thing, to stuff himself until his stomach bursts, unable to hold back his newfound craving. Snapping back to reality, he finds himself on the ground again as she demands to know what he's doing. He quickly tries to regain his composure, scolding himself for imagining something as grotesque as biting a human's nape. He insists to himself that he is not some weird pervert with strange fetishes, clearly disturbed by his own thoughts. Seonu is unsettled by his sudden predatory impulse, recognizing the danger. He breaks the tension by suggesting they talk over a meal. She looks at him, surprised. He simply states that he's getting hungry, his words carrying a double meaning that only he understands. She considers his strange invitation for a moment, her expression unreadable, as she weighs her options with the bizarre chef. She brightens up, agreeing that food is always a good idea. Meanwhile, Daydream notes his target now has a partner with her. Hiding in a derelict building, Daydream assesses his severe injuries. He realizes there's a reason she's worth 300 million, and fighting her new protector in his current condition would be reckless. While a direct confrontation is out of the question, he knows there's no problem with sniping from a safe distance. He laments the reduced payout for damaging the target instead of capturing her, but he's confident his disguise talent will allow him to hide and snipe perfectly. He waits for his moment, saying, "Here they come." He spots his target through the scope, confirming Goya is still with her. They're hiding in a building's blind spot, but he believes he can still make the shot without error. Suddenly, something unexpected happens. To his disbelief, Goya has completely covered the target with his own clothes, shielding her from the sniper's view. Seonu apologizes for the expensive-looking coat Goya is wearing to shield her, but he dismisses her concern. The sniper is frustrated because the coat covers all her vital areas, and shooting her partner would result in company penalties. Even though supporting her is clearly painful for him, Goya tells her it's okay because he's watching something interesting. He leads her to a bus stop, specifically choosing a seat that faces outward toward the street. From his vantage point, the sniper finds his view is completely blocked and decides to wait for another opening. Inside a restaurant, Goya recommends the food, while Seonu remarks that the large coat actually suits him well. Goya suggests eggs Benedict for dinner, and Seonu enthusiastically exclaims that she loves the marmalade sauce on top. He corrects her, saying it's hollandaise sauce. Despite the mix-up, she happily digs in, finding it absolutely delicious. Goya takes a bite himself and is genuinely surprised, admitting that this simple dish is really too delicious. He wonders if the dish was always this flavorful. Seonu points out he's already finished his plate completely. She offers him her leftovers so they won't go to waste. He has a sudden realization about the food's flavor. As he looks at the empty plate, he realizes it's not that the food's flavor has weakened at all. Instead, he understands that the taste of this kid's blood is unusually and intensely flavorful, unlike anything he's experienced. A predatory instinct awakens within him. Seonu happily enjoys her meal, completely unaware of the dangerous thoughts swirling in his mind as Goya struggles internally. He sighs, frustrated with himself for once again feeling murderous intent towards a mere kid over something so trivial. Across the table, Seonu suddenly feels unwell again, quietly telling herself that she endured it well this time. Goya breaks the silence with an unsettling question, asking if she has ever tasted blood and thought it was delicious. He clarifies his question, specifically asking if she's ever tasted her own blood and found it to be appetizing. She's confused, saying blood just tastes like metal. He wonders if he's the only one who finds it delicious. She asks what kind of question that is, and he dismisses it as an occupational hazard. Goya calmly points out that she dropped her knife, breaking the tense silence that had fallen between them. She laughs it off and apologizes, but as she reaches for the utensil, she suddenly clutches her wrist in pain. She winces from a sharp, unseen pain, while Goya watches her with a strange, unreadable expression on his face. He offers to get the knife for her, using it as an excuse to get up and wash his hands. She agrees, watching him walk away. She seems confused as to why he apologized, unable to follow his strange logic. From his sniper's nest, Daydream sees Goya leave the table, realizing this is the perfect opportunity to take his shot. He briefly considers storming the restaurant to kidnap her for the full 300 million, a tempting but risky move. Deciding against the dangerous gamble, he resolves to move to an easier targeting point to guarantee a successful snipe. He laughs to himself, already picturing the partner's horrified expression when he sees the target with a bullet hole through her head, a gruesome vision of his impending success. But as Daydream moves towards his new position, a hand suddenly emerges from the shadows, grabbing his arm and stopping him cold. The shadowy figure strikes him. He's completely stunned, barely able to utter the word partner as he recognizes his mysterious attacker. The attacker is revealed to be Andre, the doctor, who mockingly thanks Daydream for making him rush, as it gave him the chance to ride an electric scooter for the first time. The mysterious doctor complains that even riding a scooter to get to this location was not easy. Goya laughs about how hard it is to stab someone, as Andre realizes his bag of weapons was destroyed. But Andre isn't finished yet. He believes Goya is underestimating him after that surprise attack, so he pulls out another knife. Activating his talent, Disguise, Andre cloaks himself in shadow, confident he holds the absolute advantage in dark, close-quarters combat like this alley. Goya, however, is completely unfazed by the blade at his neck, questioning Andre's supposed advantage. He asks if he should reconsider. Andre stares in complete disbelief, unable to process what just happened. Goya somehow managed to cut straight through his steel knife with another blade. As Andre stumbles backward, realizing his weapon was sliced like butter, Goya reveals the absurd truth. He did it with a simple butter knife. Andre now understands a terrifying truth. No matter what it looks like, he'll be cut if that blade touches him. Andre realizes he must avoid close combat against this kind of talent, as Goya menacingly tells him to choose his fate. Goya mockingly asks if Andre wants to die, then presents the same option again, laughing about his own terrible math skills. Panicking, Andre knows he's being toyed with, and will die at this rate, suddenly realizing Goya somehow snatched his glasses right off his face. He tries to stall for time. Andre asks how Goya found this place, even with his previous surveillance, to which Goya simply replies that he's a bloodhound. Goya explains he can distinguish all scents within 5 kilometers, revealing he tracked Andre because he scouted Seonu's route earlier, reeking of gunpowder and blood. After Andre remains silent, Goya smirks, referring to the bounty on Seonu, and coldly states that it's his now. He sighs, recalling that he discovered something new and delicious today, and he was feeling incredibly good about it until now. Andre suddenly concedes, admitting he can't win and will back away from the target, claiming his hand is too injured and he has no weapons left. But it's a trick. Andre pulls a gun hidden in his bandages, prompting Goya to question his claim of being unarmed. With a sinister grin, Andre points the gun directly at Goya's face and asks him why he would ever trust a killer. He screams and unloads his clip, but Goya stands his ground, effortlessly deflecting every single bullet with a crazed, ecstatic smile. Andre stares in utter disbelief, completely unable to comprehend how Goya blocked bullets with a simple knife. Goya laughs, explaining he's not faster than a bullet, but he can read Andre's shoulder and gaze to perfectly interfere with the bullet's trajectory. He adds that an ambush would have been pointless since he smelled the gun from the start, causing Andre to scream about how it's not humanly possible. Still deflecting shots, Goya compliments Andre's aim, noting he targeted the head and heart despite broken fingers. With a smirk, he reveals that Andre's precise aiming actually made it much easier to read the trajectory. He suddenly dashes forward. He lands behind his target. Appearing behind him in an instant, Goya mockingly asks if they are on the same wavelength now. Andre flinches as he notices a crack forming in the butter knife that Goya used to block his bullets. Goya mockingly compliments Andre for hitting the same spot, but Andre knows the flimsy butter knife is bound to break easily. Andre believes breaking the knife is his key to victory, but Goya calmly finishes his thought, agreeing he'd die by his hand. Goya then adds a chilling condition to that statement, smiling as he says, "If you don't die first, that is." Andre is suddenly taken aback. Instead of retreating, Goya begins walking directly toward Andre, who opens fire again, creating a chaotic storm of bullets and sparks in the narrow alleyway. Goya starts laughing maniacally, raising his butter knife as he continues his slow, deliberate advance through the gunfire. His laughter intensifies, his face contorting into a terrifying expression of pure, unhinged joy as he gets closer. Andre panics, completely unnerved that Goya is just walking into the bullets while laughing like it's absolutely nothing. He screams in terror and frustration, firing wildly and demanding that the crazy bastard stop laughing at him. The butter knife finally shatters. The final bullet shatters the knife, leaving Goya with just the handle as he feigns surprise. Andre screams for him to put his hands up, and Goya begrudgingly complies, calling him a troublesome bastard. He explains his talent, disguise, is for surveillance and kidnapping, revealing a coat full of tools and mentioning his preference for using them to inflict pain, calling it a minor work accident. He pulls out a hammer, saying he planned to test it on today's target before asking Goya what he'd prefer. His face contorts with sadistic glee as he screams, asking what kind of tool his new partner would like. Goya seems to be contemplating the question, looking down at his raised hand as if considering his options. Then, to Andre's shock, Goya simply materializes another perfect butter knife in his hand, as if choosing his weapon. Andre is completely stunned, questioning where the new knife came from, and Goya casually explains he left to get a refill. He reveals dozens of butter knives hidden in his clothes, explaining he put them there in case he got shot because he's weak against guns, even joking about having more in his padding. Andre screams in complete outrage, pointing out that Goya never said he had more knives in reserve. Goya simply shrugs with a wide grin, asking why he would ever reveal that to him. He throws Andre's own question back at him, laughing as he asks why he trusted a killer's words. Enraged, Andre lunges forward again. Goya rejects the title, striking fast. Andre collapses to the ground with a butter knife buried deep in his chest, shocked he's still alive. Goya realizes he can't kill him because several restrictions have suddenly appeared, but he remembers what Andre said. He recalls Andre's own words, ominously stating that, sometimes, accidents might just happen during cargo transport. Elsewhere, a mysterious figure observes the situation from afar, noting that things are proceeding as he expected. This man reveals he used a 100 million won assassination contract to hook his target, confirming that his agent, Blade Rabbit, is now completely attached to them. He considers the lost money a shame, but ultimately decides that it's just not worth more than his life. He tells his rookie partner it's time to leave, while the younger man mutters repeatedly not to mess with food. Meanwhile, Seonu greets Goya upon his return, asking why he was gone. He simply says he had business to handle. Suddenly, Goya starts sweating, disgusted that his cravings are surfacing while they eat. He truly thought he could endure it, but he was wrong. He tells her he doesn't know what might happen from now on, concluding their current arrangement just won't work. Leaning in close with a terrifying expression, his predatory instincts taking over, he puts it simply and asks Seonu if she can give him some of her blood. Seonu questions his bizarre request for her blood, as Goya tries to explain his reasoning from when he tasted it before. He confesses that her blood was incredibly delicious, and now he has an overwhelming desire to taste more of it. Seonu recoils in disgust at his strange confession, telling him that he sounds like a total pervert right now. Goya seems to understand her reaction, but then to his surprise, Seonu calmly agrees to give him some. Goya is completely speechless. Seonu assumes that since he's a chef, he simply got some cooking inspiration from tasting her blood. She admits his request is definitely a bit weird, but she says she can understand his unique process as a chef. She then considers the logistics of the situation, blushing as she rules out him biting her neck like a vampire. She suggests putting some in a container for him next time, only to realize he has completely vanished from the room. She lets out a sudden shriek. He hadn't vanished at all. He was on the floor right below her. Completely overcome by his primal urges, he begins licking the small cut on her foot. He gently holds her foot, his eyes closed in concentration as he savors the taste of her blood, completely lost in the moment. Overwhelmed by the tickling sensation, Seonu is completely flustered and confused by what's happening to her. She covers her face, trembling and unable to process the strange mix of sensations and emotions. She kicks him in the face. The kick sends him flying. He plummets from the high-rise apartment, crashing hard onto the street several stories below him. Leaning out the shattered window, Seonu screams that they are done, and she's never seeing him again. Lying on the pavement, Goya is stunned he didn't see the kick coming, especially since he can perceive bullets, but he ultimately accepts that he was completely in the wrong for his actions. But despite the consequences, a small smile creeps onto his face as he admits her blood is truly delicious. Back at the restaurant, Goya ignores a colleague's question about snacks and heads straight for the storage room, telling them to order delivery and not to bother him, even if there's an accident. His colleague is shocked that Goya, a chef, is skipping a meal and ordering delivery instead. Inside, a strange device whirs. Goya sits alone in the dark storage room, isolating himself from everyone else in the restaurant. He touches the bandage on his nose, a faint smile playing on his lips as he replays the memory. A golden aroma fills him. The phantom scent of her blood completely surrounds him, a memory so vivid it feels real. He begins to laugh, his body trembling uncontrollably as the intoxicating memory washes over him again. Clenching his fists, he whispers to himself that the taste of her blood was absolutely delicious. A predatory grin spreads across his face as he admits it was truly, deeply delicious, far more satisfying than any dish he has ever made in his entire life as a chef. Overwhelmed by the memory and the craving, he clutches his face, his shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Huddled in the darkness, Goya struggles with his thoughts, trying to push aside the predatory idea of a menu and instead focus on remembering the girl's actual name, Seonu. His mind flashes back to Seonu at school, happily offering her friend some black garlic jelly, who recoils at the pungent smell. Seonu asks her friend Jiho if she looks like she's in pain, dismissing the idea herself even as Jiho shows immediate concern. When Jiho asks who suggested she was in pain, Seonu reveals it was the chef, prompting her friend to call him handsome, which Seonu defensively denies. Seonu tells her friend to watch carefully and begins a series of intense stretches, much to Jiho's surprise and confusion. She plants her foot firmly. She rises onto her toes, noting that while her clothes aren't ideal for this, the situation feels urgent to her. The sneaker strains as she rises fully onto her toes, demonstrating a ballerina's point with incredible, painful-looking form. Seonu holds the difficult pose, asking again if she looks like she's in pain, but her friend can only stare in horror, saying it hurts just to watch her do that without proper shoes. As her friend warns she'll break her toes, Seonu wonders how the chef knew the truth, that her toes are already broken, a fact that nobody else has ever noticed before. Her friend compliments a photo, but Seonu's mind is elsewhere, thinking back on her strange encounter with the chef. She reflects that things felt strange with the chef right from their very first meeting at the restaurant. She remembers him saying she smelled delicious, a comment that was both bizarre and strangely intriguing to her. Then there was his sudden, perceptive comment about her being in pain, something nobody else had ever noticed before. She dismisses the idea, knowing he doesn't even know she does ballet and he doesn't seem particularly perceptive. As she gracefully moves through the fluid motions of her ballet routine, the one question echoes in her mind, a complete puzzle she can't solve. How did he notice? Then she remembers the most bizarre part, him putting his mouth on her foot, which surely must have smelled of ointment. She shudders at the memory, completely disturbed by the fact that she can still vividly feel his tongue on her skin. She admits that sometimes his intense gaze alone is enough to overwhelm her, making it feel like she can't even breathe, a surprisingly strange and new feeling for her. Her friend overhears her musings and walks over with the other girl, asking her what she finds so strange. Unable to explain the feeling in words, Seonu simply finishes her pose with a bright, cheerful smile for her friends. While one friend celebrates the photo, Jiho watches Seonu with a much more perceptive and knowing gaze, preparing to share an observation. Jiho cuts straight to the point, bluntly telling Seonu that she likes the chef, which leaves Seonu completely flustered and speechless. Today's main dish is announced as Blade Rabbit-style Pablo steak, a beautifully plated and seemingly rare delicacy. A satisfied customer compliments Goya, noting he can now taste the flavor of the legendary chef Pablo in his cooking. His colleague Frida remarks that he seems less weird today, but Goya just jokes that he's his usual self. A strange, almost unsettling smile plays on his lips as he gazes off into the distance, lost in thought. After a moment of contemplation, Goya calls out to his blue-haired colleague Frida to get her attention. He informs Frida that a customer has arrived without a reservation and asks her to go greet them at the entrance. Meanwhile, a lone figure walks through the heavy snow under a purple umbrella, unknowingly emitting the faint, irresistible golden aroma that follows her everywhere she goes. Frida calls out from the restaurant entrance, getting the attention of the arriving girl, Miss Seonu, who looks up in surprise. Seonu asks how Frida knew she was coming, and Frida explains Goya sent her, revealing he's a bloodhound. Seonu is confused, knowing the shop is a 5-minute walk away. Frida explains Seonu can't enter because a VIP rented the place. Seonu, thinking it's a politician, pulls out binoculars to check, believing she can get in anyway. Seonu explains the VIP is a family friend, concluding the chef must be amazing to host him. Goya notices Seonu's determination to enter and excuses himself from the VIP table for a moment. Goya reminds her she said they were done, but Seonu invalidates it since she hadn't gotten her clothes back yet. She apologizes for interrupting, but Goya bluntly asks why she came and gets straight to the point. Seonu formally introduces herself as a ballet major with a good life, which Goya calls self-objectification. She boasts about her smarts and ability to copy any dance, but Goya is unimpressed, stating it's obvious and not worthy of praise, which shocks her. Changing the subject, she confesses there haven't been many times her heart has raced, while Goya and Frida make jokes, much to her annoyance. She flashes back to when she was young, recalling the first time her heart raced was when she saw a ballerina perform in a theater. She describes the dancer as not just pretty, but truly beautiful, a vision of grace that captivated her as she held her racing heart, wanting to be a princess who could fly like that. That moment solidified her dream, to become the most beautiful ballerina in the entire world. She explains she was blessed with everything for ballet, a constitution that doesn't gain weight and a high pain tolerance, but Goya just calls it more self-bragging. She reveals the one crucial thing she's missing, the one thing holding her back from her dream. She believes she's ugly. Frida argues that she is pretty, which Seonu accepts, but clarifies that the prettiness ballet requires is about specific body proportions. She elaborates that a ballerina needs long, model-like limbs and a beautifully arched foot, physical traits that can't be earned through effort alone. After a decade of ballet, she realized a harsh truth. Audiences naturally pay more attention to prettier dancers, even if their skill is identical. She explains that in a sea of dancers, there's only one protagonist, and prestigious overseas schools will even examine parents' body types to predict a child's potential, cutting them early. She laments that her life feels ruined because she wasn't born prettier, creating a cruel paradox. She started ballet to be beautiful but can't succeed because she isn't. As she compares it to something decided from birth, Goya interrupts, bluntly asking if she really tried hard enough. She insists she did, even practicing dislocating joints to make her limbs appear longer, prompting Goya to ask how. She quotes a ballerina she respects, explaining that ballet is the art of defying gravity, requiring a dancer to be light enough to stand gracefully on a glass cup. The glass shatters from the pressure. She explains that she practiced so hard she believed even those fairy tale words, pushing herself until her feet bled. The VIP realizes the deep, cut-like scars he saw with his examination talent were from that very brutal training method. Goya suddenly bursts into laughter, telling a confused Seonu that she's not just stubborn, she's completely blockheaded. He mockingly dismisses her story as a kid's complaints, saying it's only natural she'd think it's unfair and want to blame something other than herself for her own shortcomings. He continues his harsh critique, saying her talk of blaming her appearance doesn't resonate with him and is actually quite disgusting. Frida calls him out for being harsh, but Seonu says she isn't asking for pity, while Goya claims to understand the resolve to risk everything for a single goal. With a newfound seriousness in her eyes, Seonu looks directly at him and declares that she is approaching her dream with the resolve to die. Goya scoffs at her declaration. In a shocking instant, he stabs her through the neck with a butter knife, leaving her gasping as blood pours from her mouth. Seonu stands in complete shock, her eyes wide as she processes the sudden, violent attack from Goya. The VIP panics, believing he just stabbed her heart, but Goya pulls back, revealing it was just a harmless prank. As the shock subsides, Seonu is overcome by that strange, breathless feeling she gets around Goya again. She insists she tried hard, but Goya dismisses it, asking what she achieved by foolishly dancing on broken toes. She begins to explain her point, reiterating that jumps are the hardest part of ballet because humans can't defy gravity. People can't just become as light as feathers, she says, referencing the impossible ideal of a ballerina. She admits she normally can't dance while needing to concentrate, but she's about to make an exception. She gracefully lands on the rim of the fragile wine glass, perfectly balanced, declaring that for just a moment she truly can defy gravity. With a radiant smile, she adds that for an instant, she can become as light as a feather, a feat that Goya recognizes as a talent used by operatives, where weight seemingly disappears. Goya and the VIP are stunned. For an ordinary human to master such a surreal technique, born from decades of obsessive madness and effort, confirms what the VIP's examination already revealed to him. Goya laughs, amending his earlier statement. He acknowledges that Seonu isn't just blockheaded, she's a hard-working blockhead. He asks what her impressive feat proves, dismissing it as a circus trick rather than a proper dance move. Seonu acknowledges her explanation got a bit long and decides to get to the real reason she came today. After a moment of anticipation, she calmly tells him the reason she's here is to ask him on a date. Goya is completely stunned by her request, while Frida and the VIP eagerly ask for popcorn to watch the show. Goya leans back, a smirk on his face, acknowledging her impressive display of control. He then cuts to the heart of the matter, asking for a single good reason to date her. The scene shifts to a memory of Seonu with her friends, defending someone's strange behavior. On the screen, she dances. Her friends lean in closer, completely mesmerized by the footage of her elegant performance on screen. Her friend remarks that Seonu seems to stand out more than usual in the video. Another friend agrees, commenting on how beautiful she looks while dancing with such a serene expression. But the real Seonu flinches, hiding her face, much to her friends' confusion. She panics internally, horrified by the blissful expression she sees on her own face in the recording. Her friends misinterpret her distress, wondering if she's feeling sick from something she ate. The perspective returns to Goya, analyzing her dance with a critical, expert eye. He realizes that beyond technical aspects, her expression conveys a profound beauty he deeply recognizes. He breaks the silence, asking what role she was acting out. Stunned, Seonu insists it wasn't an act. Goya presses further, asking what was on her mind to produce such an expression. Seonu recalls that she was definitely thinking about something important. Her foot stomps down. She lands gracefully on the table, finally confessing that she was thinking about the chef. But when he asks why she stopped talking, she hesitates. She imagines him getting cocky, claiming to be her muse. But Goya interrupts, claiming he already knows the answer, which sends her into a nervous sweat. He leans forward with a wide, smug grin, confidently declaring that she must like him. Seonu is completely flustered by his accusation, sweating as she denies having any romantic feelings for him. Goya reminds her of a past incident, back when he had collapsed. He specifically refers to it as Episode 4, jogging her memory of the moment. He brings up the memory of her leaning over his unconscious body, directly accusing her of kissing him. Seonu laughs it off, correcting him by explaining it was CPR because his heart wasn't beating. He casually claims his heart just flickers sometimes, but she erupts in anger, shouting that he wasn't even breathing. He simply replies that he was savoring it. Goya explains he snapped back to reality because her kiss was too intense. His staff, watching the drama unfold, lament their lack of popcorn for the show. He continues to tease her, pointing out that CPR is also known as the kiss of life, which makes Seonu sweat bullets as his smug grin widens. She screams in absolute denial, but he calmly asks if it was her first kiss. This only makes her more frantic, insisting she's done it many times. While Goya thoughtfully recalls the moment, Seonu frantically tries to reframe the memory as a medical procedure. He cleverly asks if she found the pose romantic. She shouts her denial. Seonu launches into a very specific rant, listing all of Goya's physical traits as clear evidence that he could never possibly be her ideal type. After her tirade, she completely shifts gears, pleading with him for his time. She explains a very important competition is approaching, making this a critical moment. Goya gives her a simple, blunt refusal. With a dismissive smile, he asks why he should bother. She furiously reminds him that he owes her, arguing that he kissed her foot. He casually corrects her, saying he only tasted it, but she insists it counts. Realizing she's losing the argument, Seonu makes a final, desperate offer. With puffed cheeks, she promises to give him her blood in exchange for his time. Goya casually rejects her offer, stating he doesn't need her blood, which leaves Seonu utterly speechless. He admits that the blood-sucking was perverted and he already knows the taste, so there's no need for more. Seonu desperately pivots, suggesting that since he's a chef, he can use her delicious blood for cooking. Goya stares back, calling her idea complete and utter nonsense. He scoffs at the very idea of cooking with human blood. She argues a chef should use any delicious ingredient, but he counters, asking how he could possibly serve that to people. Although he dismissed her idea out loud, Goya's mind was already racing, furiously testing hundreds of potential blood-based recipes as a wicked grin spread across his face. Defeated, Seonu asks if it's really impossible, promising she can repay him in any way he wants. He finally relents, saying he'll consider it positively. She wonders if this is just a polite rejection, but he cuts her off, telling her to leave before he changes his mind. As she's being led away by her friend, Seonu happily shouts back a warning to him. His staff member asks about his intentions, and Goya confirms he'll date her the next time they meet. He then adds a chilling condition, only if he survives until then. The staff member is shocked, but Goya explains he's caught a scent. He reveals something has just entered his 5-kilometer detection range, as a lone figure walks through a desolate landscape. He specifies that it's an operative giving off a foul smell, his expression hardening as he identifies the threat. Meanwhile, her friend asks why she's sighing with worry. Seonu clarifies that she's not concerned about the chef, but something far more immediate. She calmly announces that another kidnapper has appeared, which sends her friend into a panic. Seonu casually dismisses it, saying it's become a frequent occurrence. Seonu points out a man who keeps changing his position while heading toward them. She explains her dance training lets her sense the positions of people around her. Her friend realizes she's using a selfie to discreetly observe their pursuer. Seonu analyzes his muscular build and straight spine, a physique she's never seen before. Her friend insists on walking her all the way home. Seonu tries to reassure her, saying she can easily call for help if things get dangerous. Seonu agrees, feeling them successfully getting farther away from the threat. Her friend, however, suddenly panics, realizing she's completely lost and can't find the restaurant. Seonu suggests just looking at a map for directions, but her friend seems embarrassed by the simple solution. She sheepishly admits that she's stupid and doesn't know how to read maps. Amused, Seonu offers to teach her, starting with how to use a compass. Suddenly, an arrow flies past, striking a bystander before lodging itself deep in her friend's chest. Blood sprays everywhere as Seonu watches in absolute stunned horror. The assassin, realizing her mistake, questions if she has targeted the wrong person after all. Seonu stares at the fallen body, trying to process the violent scene, still thinking it's another kidnapper. The assassin, Operative Binyo, recalls the photo of her target, realizing her victim was wearing the same clothes. Seonu is shocked she never noticed being followed. Binyo casually notes she hit a vital spot, while Seonu's blood runs cold. She understands this isn't a mere kidnapper, this is a professional killer. The terrifying truth dawns on Seonu. Meanwhile, Goya's staff urges him to go help, but he casually dismisses their concern, feigning ignorance about the situation. He puts on a professional front, arguing a chef can't leave with customers still waiting to be served. Seonu confronts the assassin, confirming she's the real target and pleading for a moment to talk. Binyo offers a cold apology. Seonu screams her friend's name in pure terror as the attack unfolds before her very eyes. The assassin's umbrella opens. Another projectile strikes her leg. The assassin casually dismisses a bystander by claiming they're filming, while Seonu lies on the ground, clutching her wounded leg. Lying on the cold pavement, she reaches down, surprised to find her leg is still there. She can't feel it at all. Binyo explains she used an anesthetic bullet but confirms she killed her friend just in case, leaving Seonu devastated. As Binyo prepares to take a photo for proof, Seonu desperately fights to stay awake, knowing that if she passes out, she will also die. The assassin mockingly congratulates her for staying conscious, but her attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. A mysterious man approaches from down the street, walking with purpose as he directly confronts the assassin. He calls her by her codename Binyeo, reprimanding her for attacking a civilian. He states her mistake has been confirmed, and she now faces disciplinary action. He orders her to cease all operations and immediately return to the company. Binyeo sighs, seemingly accepting the official command from her superior. But then she attacks him. She sneers, pointing out that if she were the type to obey, she wouldn't have broken regulations in the first place. Wild Dog's shirt is torn, but his chest is completely unscathed. He smirks, saying he wouldn't come unprepared to catch a rogue agent. Binyeo mocks his toughness, wondering if he's a bear. He strikes her down. Binyeo gets back up, a confident smirk on her face as she corrects her previous assumption. She realizes he's not just tough, he's a monster. A stat block reveals his name, Wild Dog, and his superhuman muscle and bone density. He offers her one last chance to surrender peacefully. But he suddenly freezes. Veins bulge on his face as he realizes he's been poisoned. Binyeo calmly states she has experience fighting superhumans just like him. She reveals her earring contains a deadly poison, confident that even monsters will die if they're living things. She gives him less than a minute before he bleeds out and asks for any last words. He has no last words. He attacks with relentless fury, reasoning that if she uses poison, she must have an antidote. Even if she doesn't, taking her down means another coordinator will take over, completing his mission regardless. He lands a solid punch. Binheo scoffs at his arrogance, insulted by the assumption that using poison means she lacks true martial arts skill. She dismisses fighters like him as toolless monkey bastards. Wild Dog officially announces the start of his coordination. Annoyed by the situation, Binheo discards her poisoned earring, preparing to fight him head-on. Just as the two operatives are about to clash, a third figure appears, interrupting their standoff and demanding to know who they are. It's Seonu's friend, Frida, somehow still alive and now carrying Seonu over her shoulder. Binheo is stunned, unable to comprehend how she survived. Frida nonchalantly suggests bullets aren't a big deal without a direct hit. Wild Dog points out it was a direct hit. Frida proudly flexes, revealing a bloody wound on her chiseled abs, claiming her muscles protected her. When asked if she's stupid, she cheerfully agrees. Frida explains that she's fine, and then asks who was responsible for hurting Seonu. Binheo feigns innocence, blaming the mean lady. Wild Dog tries to explain the situation, identifying himself as a coordinator. He points at Binheo, naming her the mastermind behind the incident. Frida punches him hard. Staggering back from the blow, Wild Dog pleads with her to calm down and resolve things through conversation. He's shocked that a monster who withstands bullets could be staggered by one punch. Frida turns away, admitting that since she's stupid, she can't possibly figure out who is telling the truth. Her solution is simple. She'll just knock everyone down first and sort out the details later. She lands a heavy blow. Both operatives are stunned by her strength. In this raw, chaotic fight without weapons or tactics, they both realize her martial arts skill is the best they've ever seen. Frida turns to leave with Seonu, but the two operatives aren't letting her go that easily. The three combatants lock eyes, a silent understanding passing between them as the real fight begins. They attack her at once. But they know that in a life-or-death muddy battle, simply showing off strength won't be advantageous. She stands her ground. She grabs the assassin. With a powerful spin, she uses Binheo as a projectile, sending both operatives crashing to the ground. Furious at being used as a weapon, Binheo glares at the girl who just threw her. She leaps away with Seonu. Frida expertly dodges and weaves, engaging Wild Dog in a flurry of close-quarters combat. She lands a devastating body blow. Wild Dog is in disbelief, struggling to comprehend how she can fight two elite operatives equally while carrying a person with just one hand. The reality is even more stunning. Wild Dog realizes they aren't fighting equally. He's being pushed back. The relentless assault takes its toll, and Wild Dog staggers backward, clearly overwhelmed by her raw power. Binheo realizes Frida isn't a monster like Wild Dog. She's just a human pushing herself past her limits, still injured from the earlier gunfire. Seeing an opportunity, Binheo throws her poison-tipped hairpin directly at Seonu. She gambles that Frida fought so hard to protect her, making it a foolish choice. Binheo's gamble pays off. With no other option, Frida throws herself in the path of the deadly projectile, choosing to block it with her own body. Instead of taking the hit, Frida catches the poison-tipped hairpin in her teeth. Both operatives are completely stunned by this absolutely insane and reckless move. Frida is forced to cradle Seonu with both arms, leaving her seemingly defenseless. Seeing that her hands are now occupied, Binheo moves in to finish the fight. Believing Frida is now vulnerable, Binheo rushes forward to attack. But instead of defending, Frida leaps high into the air, initiating a counterattack. She uses the combined weight of herself and Seonu to build incredible momentum, spinning rapidly in midair for a devastating attack. She unleashes a powerful kick. Her feet strike with impossible precision, hitting the vital points of both operatives simultaneously and taking them down in a single, fluid motion. With both enemies neutralized, Frida stands victorious over their unconscious bodies, still holding Seonu safely in her arms. Both Wild Dog and Binheo are completely knocked out, their mission an utter failure against this unexpected and overwhelming foe. The fight is finally over. Frida looks up at the sky, the adrenaline fading as she cradles her friend, safe for now. A single tear traces a path through the blood and grime on her face, a silent testament to her exhaustion and fear. In the aftermath, Seonu unconsciously snuggles closer to her savior, a peaceful blush on her face. Frida looks down at the sleeping girl, her expression softening as she processes the events of the day. A wide, tearful smile breaks across her face. Looking at the friend she fought so hard to protect, she admits aloud just how pretty Seonu really is. Frida bursts into the restaurant, proudly announcing she protected Seonu. Goya dryly reminds her he only asked her to take Seonu home. Frida worries about the designer clothes she borrowed. Goya dismissively tells her to ask the guy behind her to pay for them instead. Frida is shocked to see Wild Dog standing in the doorway, completely unharmed by their fight. He calmly ignores her, instead greeting Goya with the title Blade Rabbit Senpai. Goya greets Wild Dog, remarking on how long it's been. He then casually invites the operative to come sit down with him. Wild Dog coldly refuses the invitation, his eyes narrowing. He states that they are no longer in that kind of relationship anymore. Goya seems amused by the rejection. He casually inspects a sharp knife while glancing back at the operative standing by the door. Suddenly, Binyeo appears beside Wild Dog, also completely fine and playfully feigning capture in a pair of red rope cuffs. Frida is stunned to see the assassin was only pretending to be unconscious. Binyeo admits she was surprised by Frida's strength, but she speculates it all makes sense if Blade Rabbit was secretly involved. Goya cuts off the compliments, turning to Binyeo with a cold expression. He asks who she is, much to Frida's utter confusion. Binyeo is dramatically heartbroken, clutching her chest as if he's trampled on her heart. She feigns disbelief that he could so easily forget their past work together. Her mind flashes back to a past mission, a coordinated attack where she and Blade Rabbit worked together, cornering their target with brutal efficiency and synchronized violence. Suddenly, Binyeo lunges at Frida, attempting to choke her out despite her hands being tied. With pure rage in her eyes, she screams a promise to kill her. Frida strains, shocked by Binyeo's strength even while tied. Goya smirks, sarcastically remarking that Frida isn't a maiden either. Goya's tone turns serious. He warns them that if they're really going to fight, they shouldn't do it in his restaurant. His eyes glint with a terrifying madness as he picks up a knife. He declares that he's starting to see his restaurant as a cutting board, and them as the ingredients. The scene triggers a terrifying memory for Binyeo, a flashback to a past mission. She remembers Goya, the Blade Rabbit, as a ruthless killer holding a blade to a target's throat. Binyeo leaps back in terror, shaken by the overwhelming killing intent. She thought Blade Rabbit was settled, but this omen proves otherwise. Even Frida admits she's scared. Goya's palpable bloodlust pushes Binyeo to a new level of desperation. With a crazed grin, she declares that if he's serious, she'll risk her own life to kill him first. Wild Dog stops her. He knocks her out cold. Wild Dog apologizes, explaining he got Binyeo's needle to counteract the poison, but unintentionally caused trouble. He clenches his fist, the immense power contained within his monstrous frame, still palpable after the fight. Goya asks about the shop floor, promising to compensate personally since it's outside company business. Frida then asks if he wasn't serious, but he just calls it strength control. Holding the unconscious Seonu, Goya asks why a professional killing company is doing minor kidnapping jobs. Wild Dog coldly replies that it's against company policy to tell civilians. Goya asks if he'll be reported for his involvement. Wild Dog says there were no such instructions for this coordination. He delivers a chilling warning from the shadows. The coordination department, represented by ominous figures with glowing eyes, will always be watching him from now on. Frida is outraged by the threat, arguing that coordinators exist to protect civilians, unless they're attacked first. Goya suddenly grabs a new customer in a bird mask, noting the reek of blood. He realizes the customer is another coordinator, who apologizes for interrupting, but Goya calls him an impatient waiter. Frida summarizes the disastrous situation. Without knowing anything, she has made enemies of both operatives and coordinators. Seonu apologizes, but Frida insists no one blames her. Goya looms over Frida with a terrifyingly cheerful grin, correcting her by stating that he, in fact, does blame her. The coordinator explains that a named operative, Binyeo, is now targeting Seonu. He speculates that, without Wild Dog's interference, even Frida's protection wouldn't have been enough to save her. The coordinator bluntly tells her that if he were serious, she would already be dead. Frida quietly insists that she is stronger. He concedes she's stronger in a barehanded fight. Meanwhile, in a nearby car, a man in a red mask observes the situation, unsurprised that the target survived the initial attack. He remarks to the unconscious Binyeo that it's the first time he's ever seen her smile. He muses that if both combatants had truly risked their lives and unleashed their unique talents, he couldn't guarantee who would have won the fight. The hooded figure's eyes begin to glow with an intense, otherworldly blue energy, hinting at a hidden, formidable power. Blue flames begin to swirl. Her unique talent is revealed to be a terrifying ability simply known as poison. Depending on her accumulated capacity, she can generate a lethal poison gas potent enough to completely cover the entire surrounding area, suffocating anyone caught within its deadly blue haze. As a final, terrifying advantage, her talent also grants her complete and total immunity to any poison, allowing her to stand unharmed within her own lethal creation. A dark memory reveals the catastrophic power of Binyeo's poison. She walks calmly through the lethal gas she unleashed, as a grim report details 7 dead coordinators and countless civilian victims. The coordinator continues his warning, stating that the company will now send Binyeo or even stronger operatives to finish the job. Goya realizes he and Siono are in too much danger. The coordinator suggests requesting official protection through the agency as their only choice. Goya decides it's time to wake her up and talk. The coordinator uses a device to counteract the anesthetic, and Siono slowly begins to regain consciousness, confused and disoriented. As her vision clears, Siono finds herself sitting in the Rabbit Hole restaurant. Goya and another man are standing nearby, watching her. Siono panics, frantically asking about Frida's condition. Just then, Frida cheerfully appears behind her, completely unharmed, leaving Siono in utter disbelief. Goya provides a cover story, claiming she collapsed from exhaustion. Confused with a headache, Siono asks if it was snowing outside. Her question triggers a disturbing memory. She stares at the red umbrella, which now appears to be melting, dripping a thick, red substance onto the floor like blood. She tries to rationalize it as paint or sauce, but the terrifying truth rushes back. The attack was real and she could have died. The full weight of her near-death experience crashes down on her. The memory of the anesthetic bullet hits, and she shudders, realizing her foot could have been torn off completely. The fragmented memories solidify into a terrifying realization for Siono. She finally understands the true, dangerous identity of the people she has just encountered. Goya gives her an out, suggesting they postpone their date since she doesn't seem to be in good condition. Siono quickly agrees with his assessment. She forces a tearful smile, blaming her condition on a lack of sleep. Internally, she acknowledges the extreme danger, but her desire to achieve her goal remains unshaken. With renewed determination, she insists on the date, seeing it as the path to creating her most beautiful moment. Goya gives a final chilling warning that this choice is irreversible. Despite his warning about the chaotic world, she stammers out her acceptance. Goya seems to sigh, lamenting how scary the world truly is. A wide, manic grin spreads across Goya's face. He leans back with a laugh, posing a rhetorical question about what could possibly be scarier than death itself. The coordinator, Andre, grabs Goya in a rage. Goya simply laughs, teasing him for getting angry and being jealous that they're playing together. Andre realizes Goya knew this would happen. Goya confirms it, reasoning that if she wants her dream this badly, he should help make it come true. But he's more curious about the dishes he can make with her blood. The coordinator grows worried, believing that Siono can't possibly be unaware of the danger she's putting herself in. He recalls examining her broken foot, where she pretended nothing was wrong. He sees a parallel between her foolish, self-destructive path to dance and Goya's own past, when he became settled, because he simply wanted to cook. The coordinator recognizes they are of the same kind, foolishly choosing the shortest, most self-destructive path to achieve their dreams, even if it means ruining their own bodies in the process. Frustrated, Andre overflows his wine glass. Goya agrees to the date, and Siono eagerly asks for his contact information. Siono tries to exchange contacts, asking if he's bad with smartphones. He cuts her off, stating that he already knows how it works. With a sinister smile, he refuses to exchange numbers. He'll only contact her when needed and impatiently demands her information. Siono holds her phone, her expression unreadable and resolute as she prepares to give him her number. Frida watches from behind, her face etched with deep concern for the dangerous path her friend is choosing to walk. Siono arrives for her date, wondering if showing up 30 minutes early was a bit much. She decides it's better to be early than to give him a reason to sneer at her for being late. She spots Goya waiting by a large, glowing tree and worries he might laugh at her for dressing up too much. Goya, also early, decides to kill some time by looking around while checking something on his phone. He looks up from his phone, a familiar, unsettling smile spreading across his face as he spots her approaching. She gasps in surprise. He immediately criticizes her stylish but cumbersome outfit. She explains that Frida told her to wear it, thinking it was casual. He stares at her for a moment, his expression unreadable, leaving her feeling flustered and confused. Then, without any explanation, he leans in and bluntly tells her to just go home, shocking her completely. He angrily asks why she wore perfume when he told her not to. She insists it's just cologne, but he orders her home to wash it off immediately. Seonu protests that her makeup took 2 hours, but Goya pinches her cheek, mocking her claim of coming out casually. After going home and returning, Seonu is now an hour late, fuming at who is to blame for the delay. Goya asks why she changed into such casual clothes. She grumbles that someone ruined her motivation to dress up. He leans in close, whispering that he prefers her natural body scent, which makes her recoil in disgust, calling him creepy. Seonu tells him she's angry and asks if he has anything to say. He retorts that he feels no need to apologize. She argues that sending her home over a little perfume was excessive for a date. Goya suddenly winces in discomfort. As they walk past a cosmetic store, the powerful scents overwhelm Goya, causing him to stagger away from the entrance. Noticing his reaction, a smug, happy little smile spreads across Seonu's face, making Goya question her sudden good mood. She asks what to do first. After he reminds her to think, she suggests buying ballet supplies, but Goya just wants to eat. He asks if she doesn't like eating. She quickly agrees that food is always good, and they head off together. Seonu questions why a chef would eat simple knife-cut noodles. Goya replies that he just eats whatever is delicious, regardless of its simplicity. She then questions why he ordered a 2-person set. He logically retorts that if you can eat it all, it's a 1-person portion. They both begin to eat. Seonu is visibly delighted by how delicious the food is, while Goya maintains his usual smug expression. She claims she's full after just 1 bite, but he accuses her of teasing him. She insists her stomach is just small. She thought he'd hate leaving food since he's a chef, asking if cleaning your plate isn't a virtue. Goya explains his philosophy. While he doesn't approve of food waste, sometimes choosing to leave food behind is an option. He calls it the right of the hunter, the predator. Seonu decides that from now on, she'll just ignore him whenever he talks nonsense and continues to slurp her soup. He asks where to go next for her ballet supplies. She counters that after a meal they need dessert, and for once, he agrees. They arrive at a dessert shop with a long line. Seonu explains that the patissier studies in France every year, so the taste is guaranteed to be exceptional, which seems to pique Goya's interest. Seonu notes that he talks less than she thought, wondering if food is his only topic of conversation before trying to start a new one. She asks for his real name, but he cryptically replies that only he knows it. When she asks his age, he flatly states he's 37. Goya repeats his age, and the number echoes in Seonu's mind as the shocking realization begins to dawn on her. The truth hits her like a bolt of lightning. She's horrified, screaming that she thought he was in his 20s, making him more than twice her age. Her horror deepens, realizing her first kiss was with a man almost 40. She timidly gets his attention, but he immediately corrects her. He looks over his shoulder with a sly smile, telling her to stop calling him chef and just call him Goya. Seonu brightens up. Seeing this as progress, she happily declares she can also call him familiarly now if she wants. Later, she exclaims that the colorful macarons they bought are almost too pretty to eat, sparkling like little jewels in their box. She excitedly asks if they look like jewels, but Goya flatly disagrees. Annoyed by his response, she decides to just ignore him. Goya asks if she's full after 1 bite again. She explains it's not that, but rather a blood sugar spike, which he finds to be just another one of her many issues. Goya sarcastically wonders if her issue is her pancreas. She notices he looks pale, asking if he's actually having a blood sugar spike. She decides to taste 1 bite of each macaron. Goya warns she'll die eating like that, but she retorts it's a good way to die. Seonu is shocked that he only ate 1 bite of each, calling it a waste of food. As she wonders about his predator philosophy, Goya holds out a half-eaten macaron, surprising her. He simply tells her to eat it, reminding her that she called it wasteful. She grits her teeth in annoyance, arguing that they've already done more than enough to be close. She protests that it's leftovers and asks if he really thinks she's a food disposal unit. He then pops the macaron into her mouth. Her expression immediately changes to one of delight. She asks him how it is, declaring that even leftovers are delicious, aren't they? He asks what she's doing, and she eagerly demands more. But as he reaches for another, she suddenly feels her energy drain away. He hands her a drink for her blood sugar spikes. She explains it's caffeine-free Rooibos tea, so it should be fine for her to drink. Goya's face flushes slightly as he takes a sip from her drink, realizing what he's just done. Seonu hesitantly asks if he has diabetes. He seems to consider it, then offers to take her to the hospital if it's really bad. Seonu gratefully calls him a lifesaver, but he dismisses her dramatic praise, finding it unnecessary. Goya muses that he will have to repay her for the drink, his eyes scanning the crowd. His expression becomes serious as he holds out his hand, telling her to be nervous now. She looks at his outstretched hand, her cheeks flushing as she timidly responds to his command. Goya reminds her that this is a date, even if it's just a name, and tells her to hold on. She hesitantly places her hand in his, their fingers interlacing as they finally make physical contact. As they walk away hand in hand, Seonu asks if he normally grabs hands so readily on dates. He flatly denies it, insisting this is the first time, though she playfully calls him a liar. Goya looks down at her, his expression uncharacteristically sincere, as he insists that he's being serious. She looks up at him, a curious and slightly surprised expression on her face as she processes his words. Goya suddenly stops walking, his focus shifting as he spots a new target in the crowded mall. Goya knew operatives would be attached soon, but he was surprised by how blatantly they were following. He finds complicated situations annoying, deciding it's best to create distance and slowly move locations now. Suddenly remembering she needs ballet supplies, Seonu grabs Goya's arm and yanks him into a store. The hooded figure follows them. Goya questions if headphones are ballet supplies, but Seonu explains that you listen to music. Seonu clarifies that she doesn't need expensive ones, but specifically a pair with superior noise-canceling performance, since she already owns the expensive stuff. He urges her to quickly try them on, turn up the volume, and check the noise canceling. With Seonu distracted, the operative draws a silenced pistol and lunges, but Goya instantly reacts, intercepting the attack with a pair of crossed blades. He unleashes a flurry of strikes. Completely shielded from the sound, Seonu turns around, oblivious to the silent, deadly fight behind her. She asks why he stabbed her, but Goya casually lies, claiming there was a bug. He gestures to the cart with the body, saying he caught it, which Seonu completely believes. Seonu notices he's sweating, but Goya is internally panicking. He realizes the job has escalated from kidnapping to murder, and the operative's sloppy skills suggest a reckless, results-oriented approach. Goya puts on the headphones as Seonu asks if it's calming. She explains that it's a song from Tchaikovsky's ballet Sleeping Beauty, specifically the theme for the purple lilac fairy's appearance. She smiles warmly, closing her eyes as she explains that this is the exact piece she loves. Her happiness is absolutely radiant. Goya interrupts her peaceful moment, muttering that something about the color purple doesn't seem right to him. He comments on the excellent noise canceling, saying he can't hear her. She's confused since she'd turned it off, but he admits he switched it on himself, internally noting this operative wasn't alone. He spots another operative outside. He deduces that this operative moves as a team, revealing a full squad of named agents, Double, Echo, Rect, and Quick, who are all working together on this mission. Meanwhile, the team complains about tailing from too far away. However, their leader's orders were to maintain a safe distance, since the full extent of their target's talent remains completely unknown. Goya gives Seonu hand cream, joking that it's because they're on a date. He then explains he enjoys giving thoughtful gifts, noting that, as a chef, her hands must be rough. He takes the cream for himself, claiming this is how her scent transfers to him. She points out the cream is unscented, but he insists that because she applied it, her scent transfers. He smiles, specifically mentioning her unique spring-like scent, which leaves Seonu momentarily speechless and flustered. Goya elaborates, saying she smells like a spring vegetable salad, which she finds completely offensive. Meanwhile, the operatives watch from afar, growing impatient as their targets get farther away. The team's discipline breaks down as one member is chided for smoking indoors. Another agent is surprisingly angry that they're spying on what looks like a genuine date, showing some internal conflict. The masked operative, Double, scoffs at their bickering and presents a far more direct solution. He takes aim with his finger. An invisible projectile shoots forward. It strikes Goya in the chest. The operative is stunned to see his attack had no effect. Goya is perfectly fine, laughing as if absolutely nothing happened. Double insists he sent killing intent, but Goya showed no reaction. He concludes that targets who don't react are usually either complete idiots or simply don't care if they die. The third possibility is the most terrifying. Their target is a monster who doesn't even care about their threats, a being completely beyond their comprehension and control. The team's speculation is cut short as they watch their targets casually walk into a photo booth. They debate whether this is a trap or a jackpot. One agent suggests they charge in, but another warns it's too dangerous to fight an unknown operative for so little money. Their leader chimes in, reminding them that their safety is what's most important. She views this as a positive development, since the target is now effectively trapped inside the photo booth. From a remote location, Operative Cindy explains her strategy. If the target is constantly preparing for killing intent while protecting someone, his mental strength will eventually be consumed by the strain. Cindy reasons the unknown operative will soon get tired, so she decides to move in. Another agent admits his talent is disadvantageous in close combat, but believes it's possible with teamwork. She smiles with complete confidence, stating that above all else, she trusts her team completely. As the curtain to the photo booth slowly closes, Cindy begins to explain the details of the operation. Goya has cornered their leader, Cindy, in the bathroom, laughing as he holds a blade to her throat, remarking that everything is proceeding exactly as he expected. Cindy is in utter disbelief, certain that he was trapped inside the photo booth. Goya mocks her lack of field experience, explaining that plaza photo booths often have double doors, which allowed his easy escape. She's shocked he could detect her and move with such skill. Realizing they've hit a jackpot of trouble, she desperately tries to activate her comms to warn her team, but it's already too late. Goya calmly speaks into the captured communication device, asking the rest of the team if they can hear him. The team demands to know what he did to their leader. Goya nonchalantly explains he treated her like the first guy, avoiding vital points so she probably won't die, adding that sneaky types are weak up close. He then requests they stop all the kidnapping and murder attempts, explaining that, unlike them, it's troublesome for him. The operative on the line acknowledges Goya is no ordinary person and directly demands to know his true identity. With a confident smirk, Goya reveals his infamous codename, Blade Rabbit, a name that carries significant weight. The operative bursts into laughter, finding the claim completely ridiculous. He mocks Goya for trying to use the notoriety of a dead man, revealing that the real Blade Rabbit was settled very miserably. The operative realizes Goya hung up on him, and the entire team erupts into hysterical, mocking laughter. Their laughter dies down as a horrifying possibility dawns on them. What if he's the real Blade Rabbit? Back in the bathroom, Goya thoughtfully considers his next move, a pensive look on his face. He smiles, realizing the chaos and blood have completely erased Jin Seonu's lingering scent from him. With his objective complete and his cover intact, he decides it's finally time to leave. The now empty bathroom is eerily quiet, the only evidence of the violent encounter being the small, dark pool of blood left behind on the pristine white floor. A chilling silence hangs in the air, the bloodstain serving as a grim promise of the danger that still lurks just beneath the surface of their seemingly normal date. The operative decides they must retreat, admitting they stand no chance against the legendary Blade Rabbit in a direct confrontation. The mission is now a failure, and there's nothing more they can do about it. Elsewhere, Seonu sits waiting impatiently, wondering why the person he's supposed to meet is late yet again. He recalls that Goya looked unwell earlier, and a flicker of genuine worry crosses his face. Suddenly, Goya appears, startling Seonu, who immediately expresses his immense relief that he's okay after all. Seonu, now cheerful and relieved, reaches out his hand, eager to get their outing started quickly. Goya just stares at the offered hand, his expression unreadable as he tells Seonu to hurry. He snatches his hand away. Seonu is flustered by the rejection, reminding Goya he was just trying to be helpful. As they wait at a bus stop, Seonu worries if taking public transport is safe. Goya, however, seems completely unconcerned, drawing from his numerous past experiences to reassure him. Seonu mentions his dad's people as a backup, while Goya dismissively acknowledges the extensive security measures like facial recognition just to enter his home. Seonu enthusiastically invites Goya to his ballet performance, but Goya flatly rejects the offer. Undeterred, Seonu then offers him some hand cream. Goya again refuses, stating that Seonu's scent would transfer to him. Seonu laments how difficult conversation becomes before they part ways. Despite the awkwardness and Goya's constant rejections, Seonu looks back on their time together with a genuine smile, admitting that he had fun. Seonu seems surprised, asking if just eating and having coffee was really that enjoyable for him. Goya simply confirms that it was. With their time together concluded, Goya turns his back and walks away into the night, leaving Seonu with a simple, final farewell. Seonu is left standing alone, puzzled by the strange finality in Goya's parting words as the bus approaches behind him. Goya walks alone through the city streets, reflecting that their supposed date has finally come to an end. He suddenly stops in his tracks, a look of disbelief on his face as he realizes he's made a critical oversight. An unsettling, almost manic grin spreads across his face as the horrifying realization dawns on him. He completely forgot to get blood. He remembers that getting blood was the entire condition for agreeing to the date in the first place. Without the blood, there was no reason to have met up with Seonu at all. Suddenly, the operatives reappear, their mission now changed from kidnapping the target to prioritizing the complete elimination of Blade Rabbit first. One operative questions if their plan will work, but another confirms the leader's intel. It's definitely Blade Rabbit, and his past settlement proves he has weaknesses they can exploit. The ambush is being carried out by the formidable Operative Team 999, a specialized group. Their unique talent is resonance, a power created by modifying musical instruments used during their band activities into deadly, synchronized weapons. They immediately begin a relentless combination attack, striking him from all directions simultaneously with their coordinated assault. Enraged that they would so fearlessly enter his personal range, Goya endures their sonic onslaught, taking multiple hits as the coordinated attack overwhelms his defenses from every angle. He thinks to himself that this level of attention is embarrassing, as this isn't a fan meeting. Despite their synchronized ambush and powerful abilities, the surviving operatives are left in stunned disbelief as they realize he cut down 4 of their members almost simultaneously. Goya explains he identified the leader, dealing with them first. He knew their absence would reveal the team's amateurish weakness, luring them right into his prepared trap. He continues, explaining they had no choice but to rush him in close quarters from a narrow, predictable angle from above. He reveals a small, glowing object, stating he knew they'd eventually target him since they were already after Jin Seonu. With a chilling smile, he asks if they really thought he would just let them take Seonu before crushing the object. He strikes an operative down. The operative watches in shock as Goya not only blocks bullets, but deflects them into his own teammates. Goya's talent is revealed as cutting board, a chef's technique perfected over dozens of years. Goya laughs, claiming it's just coincidence, and taunts him to shoot again. His talent is described as the ability to literally cook anything that falls within his hand's reach. Acting as a former senior, Goya decides to teach the operative about the bloody consequences of wrong judgment. He holds up a can of tea, saying he'll drink it later. He throws a blade with terrifying speed. The blade pins his hand. With a series of rapid cuts, Goya attacks the operative's neck, expressing mock surprise that it's so tough to slice through, sarcastically asking if he exercises a lot. Dismissing the operative's durability, Goya grins maniacally. He begins a display of cruel and dramatic actions to make an example of him. He deliberately chose an operative with a superhumanly hard body for this display. His settlement rapidly consumes stamina, so he decided to subdue his enemies with psychological pressure instead of fighting directly. This dazzling and cruel display of torture is a massive gamble, consuming more than half of his remaining stamina in one go. The immense strain of the effort is clearly visible, but his gamble was lethally effective. The remaining operatives are frozen in absolute terror, their minds flashing back to the legends they once heard. They were known by many names like killer and professional murderer. Those with a natural talent for hunting humans were given a special title, humanity's natural enemies. Yet there was one whose swordsmanship was superior even to these natural enemies, the strongest among all operatives. That legendary person's name, as the stories go, was simply the Wanderer. This mysterious figure, the Wanderer, now stands before Goya, asking for his opinion on the preceding monologue. He suggests the tale will be the preface to his memoirs, sheathing his blade with a sharp sound that startles Goya. Goya is sent flying backward. Sparks erupt from a vending machine. As the Wanderer approaches, he clarifies that this isn't an ambush, stating he always prefers to take lives while facing his opponents directly. Goya, now bleeding from his head, curses the Wanderer's timing. The man simply laments that while Goya's skills may have improved, his own body remains shamefully broken. The Wanderer points out Goya's carelessness, noting he didn't even sense his approach. He asks if Goya's sense of smell tires quickly due to his settlement, revealing his name. Just as their tense confrontation reaches its peak, Goya is completely thrown off guard by the sudden appearance of Jin Seonu. Looking concerned, Seonu explains that he came back because he remembered the promise to give blood and didn't have Goya's phone number. His words trail off as he finally takes in the chaotic scene of defeated bodies littering the ground, leaving him utterly confused by the carnage. Seonu stares in shock at the chaotic scene, his mind struggling to process the violence before him. His eyes fall upon the defeated operatives littering the ground, unable to comprehend what has just happened here. The mysterious wanderer stands silently amidst the chaos, his blood-soaked blade held ready, a clear and immediate threat to everyone present in the desolate alleyway. Goya realizes this is the worst possible scenario. He's exhausted his stamina and now faces a powerful enemy, all while having to protect Seonu without revealing his true identity. Goya quickly concocts a story, claiming the attackers were killers who suddenly started shooting, and he just barely dodged. Seonu points out the blood on his face, but Goya brushes it off, saying the attackers must have mistaken him for Seonu's bodyguard. He then smoothly incorporates the wanderer into his lie, calling him a friend who arrived just in time to help. The wanderer shrewdly plays along, realizing Goya is trying to de-escalate without revealing his identity. Seonu, completely lost, tries to use his acting skills to read the wanderer's true emotions. But as he stares at the imposing figure before him, he finds a complete void. The wanderer is an enigma, showing absolutely no discernible emotion or thought on his stoic face. Unable to make sense of the situation, Seonu decides to put his faith in Goya for now. The wanderer then addresses Seonu directly, formally playing the part of an old acquaintance who just happened upon the incident. Goya knows the wanderer is playing along to avoid combat in front of Seonu. He leans into the act, joking that Seonu must have been scared next to such dangerous people. However, a surviving operative seethes with rage, asking how Goya can laugh after murdering his comrades. Goya coldly dismisses the fallen as nothing more than trash. The wanderer quietly observes the operative's burning hatred, remarking that it's been a long time since he's seen such warm, resentful eyes. He then delivers a chilling piece of advice to the furious operative. Don't bare your teeth when you're weak. The operative's anger is fueled by grief, recalling that his team just wanted to work and play in a band. He laments how they were suddenly caught in a fight between monsters. While revenge isn't their usual motto, things have changed. Another surviving operative steps forward, her resolve hardened. She vows that she will now complete the mission no matter what. She issues a direct threat. If they move, she will too. Goya, battered but determined, promises to follow her to the end. A manic grin spreads across Goya's face as he suggests they'll have a good time. The wanderer immediately intervenes, stating that won't do. The wanderer steps between Goya and the operative, physically blocking his path and coldly informing him that he is in the middle of a conversation. Goya questions the wanderer's intentions, but the man simply repeats his desire for a conversation. Seonu tries to make sense of the situation, confused why Goya's acquaintance has a bloody blade. He remains oblivious that both sides are actually targeting him. Barely able to handle one opponent, Goya quickly forms a plan, asking Seonu if his new sneakers are ready to be tested. He gives Seonu a coded instruction: go for a walk and run for his life. Having already destroyed the operative's weapons, he must now deal with the wanderer quickly. Seonu's expression shifts as he understands the hidden meaning, looking at Goya and reaffirming his decision to trust him completely. He promises an intense walk, but makes Goya promise an explanation later, before sprinting away from the dangerous scene. One operative scoffs at letting Seonu escape. With Blade Rabbit tied up, they have nothing to fear. The operatives immediately give chase. They're left in utter shock at Seonu's incredible speed, realizing he is moving at a level equivalent to a 10-second 100-meter dash. As Seonu sprints with focused determination, the operatives can only watch in disbelief at his professional track athlete-level speed. Goya laughs maniacally, boasting to a surprise boss that he can buy about 3 to 5 minutes. He taunts the remaining operatives, telling them they won't catch the surprisingly fast Seonu without a bike. With the operatives gone, the wanderer turns his full attention to Goya, suggesting it's time for their own confrontation to begin. Despite his injuries, Goya grins with anticipation, ready to have the deep and intense conversation the wanderer wanted. The scene shifts to the two sitting at a table, where the wanderer casually notes that Goya's wound won't stop bleeding. The wanderer asks if the company is now kidnapping kids. questioning if their policy has changed to include classified targets like Jin Seonu. The Wanderer explains he enjoys stories and has nothing he can't talk about, so he'll share what he knows. He then reveals a crucial piece of information. The company specifically wants that girl's blood. He explains Seonu isn't targeted for her wealth, but for her rare blood. His talent examination revealed her blood type is the incredibly rare ORH null, much to Goya's confusion. A figure explains that unlike normal blood, Seonu's lacks any Rh antigens. This makes it a universal donor, meaning it can theoretically be transfused into anyone in the world without causing rejection. Goya muses about this extreme mutation, but the Wanderer clarifies the terrible downside. She herself can't receive any other blood type, making her own blood useless for herself, but precious to everyone else. The medical world values this rarity so highly that it's called golden blood. The Wanderer can't understand valuing something just because it's rare, but Goya simply states that he finds it delicious. Goya argues that 300 million is too cheap for capturing someone with a blood type that only 50 people in the world have. The Wanderer tells him to think about it in reverse. He explains that the low price means the client is powerful enough to mobilize operatives with small change and can pressure a company that kills people. Goya questions why a master like him would take such a small job. The Wanderer claims the price simply matched a sword he wanted to buy, but Goya notes he's slow with the news. With a wide, manic grin, Goya reveals the bounty has been updated. It's already skyrocketed to 1.5 billion because time is also money to someone very powerful. Goya states that this fickleness is the predator's right, a concept the Wanderer dismisses as nonsense. Having enjoyed their talk, the Wanderer then prepares to leave. The Wanderer suddenly attacks. Goya parries the strike, asking if ambushes are also conversations. The Wanderer says talks with iron are just as good. The Wanderer's sword tastes the air near Goya, and he comments on his weight loss. Goya furiously tells him to stop judging his body by licking it with his sword. The Wanderer's swordsmanship is a practical technique built upon traditional styles. His movements connect in the shortest, most optimal way, creating an illusion that motion was omitted entirely. This incredible speed is not the result of some innate talent, but the product of honest, relentless training. Goya offsets the Wanderer's compressed image attack using his own talent, cutting board. Their fight is a blur of motion as they clash blades at incredible speeds, their movements almost faster than the eye can see. With their talents unusable, it becomes a pure skill fight. Goya lacks the raw muscle strength to counter the Wanderer's powerful attacks, but he holds a slight advantage in pure technique, excluding strength. Exploiting his technical superiority, Goya penetrates the Wanderer's defense, following the flow of the fight without using brute force. He lands a solid blow. The Wanderer realizes Goya can't fight properly due to his settlement's effect on his legs. He mocks him, saying a rabbit caught in a trap describes him well. Goya feigns defeat, wondering aloud how he'll die. The Wanderer immediately sees through the act, recognizing it as a cunning ploy to make him careless before a final strike. Goya can only laugh, admitting that his trick has been busted. The Wanderer asks to see the blade Goya used. Goya is suspicious but complies, trusting the Wanderer won't do anything strange. The Wanderer states that a blade user must have an eye for blades. He inspects his own sword, the white blade evil cutting sword. Known by many names, from royal treasure to a mere bandit's blade, its light reflects the wielder's capability. Goya mocks him for bragging about rare items mid-fight. The Wanderer deems every aspect of Goya's blade lamentable, from its length to its performance. Goya defensively reminds him it was a gift, but the Wanderer sighs that this ending can't be helped now. He shatters Goya's blade. The Wanderer points out that with Goya's blade shattered, their weapon lengths are now exactly the same. Goya knows his advantage has vanished, forced to fight at this distance until the night ends. Just like Blade Rabbit, the Wanderer was also known by the alias of Natural Enemy. With blood streaming down his face, Goya admits this shared, dark history is precisely why he's always hated him. The Wanderer's eyes blaze with a terrifying orange light, a predatory grin spreading across his face as he declares it's time to continue their deadly conversation once again. The Wanderer stands over the shattered remains of Goya's blade, ready to resume their deadly conversation. As the wanderer begins sheathing his sword, Goya interrupts, mocking the inefficient and slow stance and sarcastically questioning if there's some secret sword knowledge he's completely missing. The wanderer cryptically offers to explain if Goya can beat him. Goya laughs, retorting that if he wins, the wanderer won't be able to tell him anything. Meanwhile, the scene shifts away to a quiet, empty street under the starry night sky. Suddenly, one of the operatives pursuing Seonu mysteriously collapses to the ground, struck by an unseen force. He looks up from the pavement in utter shock and confusion, struggling to comprehend what just happened. A new fighter with bright green hair attacks with a whirlwind of blades, resembling a giant blender. He casually apologizes for rushing in with his full power, but the operative retorts that if he's sorry, he should just stop fighting. The operative is stunned that his full power was deflected by such a frail body. The fighter's technique is miraculous, precisely stopping the attack at its release point, an act as absurd as saving a butterfly from a typhoon. Back at the main fight, the wanderer questions if Goya has suddenly gotten stronger or if this is his true full power. The wanderer finds this new development an interesting delicacy, making him incredibly impatient to continue their fight. Goya, however, feels the immense pressure and questions why his opponent is grinning so excitedly about the situation. Goya notes that the force from just blocking the wanderer's strike with his paper-thin knife sent his body flying. Meanwhile, the green-haired fighter incapacitates one operative, noting he didn't kill him. The other recognizes the fighter as Crow. Goya lands hard, realizing it would have been better to be blown away. He laments his awkward situation, caused by the previous fight and his exhaustion, and feigns weakness by asking to stop. The wanderer agrees to stop facing each other and have an iron conversation instead. Goya curses his opponent's inability to listen, realizing he's just like him as time seems to stop due to his cutting board ability. Because of the wanderer's alien swordsmanship, their blade speeds are nearly identical, even with Goya's mismatched weapon. Their fight devolves into a monotonous tactical exchange of blows, with neither fighter able to gain a clear advantage. However, a single powerful sword stroke from the wanderer is enough to tear their tactical exchange completely apart. Goya realizes his stamina, which he needs to maintain his cutting board ability, has finally reached its absolute limit. His energy completely depleted, he can no longer use his cutting board ability, leaving him utterly vulnerable. The wanderer strikes him down. Goya sees his chance, attacking the sword itself. He's shocked when the wanderer counters not by blocking, but by cleverly letting go of his own weapon to dodge the attack entirely. The wanderer decides to withdraw what's unnecessary, targeting Goya's leg first. Goya is shocked that even after switching hands, the wanderer's attack lands, realizing he's gotten even faster. Goya realizes breaking the sword was a mistake. Now that the wanderer thinks they're on equal footing, he's attacking relentlessly, leaving absolutely no gaps in his offense and targeting what's unnecessary. The wanderer takes his ear. As the wanderer gets more excited by the fight, Goya is forced to retreat from his overwhelming presence. Meanwhile, the operatives have found a scooter and have easily caught up to the fleeing Seonu on the streets. The operative notes that no human can outrun a scooter. He decides to catch Seonu first, then he'll choose between completing the mission or getting revenge on Blade Rabbit. Just as they close in, Crow appears from the shadows, deciding he'll have to damage their legs a bit. But Seonu turns around. He leaps and kicks him. Both are completely shocked. Crow watches in disbelief as Seonu soars through the air, revealing the incredible muscle explosiveness needed for ballet. His training has granted him the stamina to jump at full power for hours, along with the sensitivity to accurately read his opponents' emotions before they can even act. He lands with perfect grace. Through his rigorous ballet training, Jin Seonu had unknowingly acquired all the essential skills needed to survive. The operatives are left dumbfounded, wondering how they could possibly catch someone who moves just like a rabbit. Back in the main fight, Goya decides to cut away what's unnecessary. He reattaches his severed ear, reasoning that he needs it for its aesthetic value, which helps him in various ways. The wanderer realizes Goya tracked his form using the lingering scent he'd saved from before combat began. He finds Goya's technique, even while settled, to be ripening and exciting. Goya reveals that he's already grown used to the wanderer's techniques, confident that he holds the overwhelming advantage in pure skill. But the wanderer finds the situation beautiful, a truly beautiful night. Even while being cut, the demon's madness allows him to enjoy both the killing intent and the sword strikes themselves. Goya realizes he's not just taking damage, but actively inflicting it on himself with his own attacks. He understands this has now become a do-or-die situation for him. Goya taunts the Wanderer, asking why he won't use his talent, creating a tense standoff between them. Goya describes the Wanderer's talent, Grief Sword Heart, which crudely extends the sword. It is the embodiment of love for the sword, allowing the blade to adjust its iron body by itself. Goya cleverly points out that if the Wanderer's talent could change the sword's length, he should have shortened it to match his cutter knife. This simple logic momentarily restores reason amidst the Wanderer's madness. The Wanderer admits he deliberately broke the sword. Goya seizes the chance to mock him, calling his prized weapon a simple, no-brand item. Enraged by the insult to his weapon, the Wanderer screams that Goya is the true enemy of his evil-cutting sword. Goya's plan to break his opponent's composure works perfectly. However, he's shocked when the Wanderer's sword energy suddenly goes wild as he unleashes his Grief Sword Heart technique. The Wanderer prepares his final move. A massive attack comes rushing forward. With no other options left, Goya knows he can only rely on luck now for this final, desperate showdown. The Wanderer's massive attack rushes forward, but Goya manages to dodge the brunt of the devastating blow at the last second. Goya stumbles back, realizing the Wanderer instinctively targeted his injured eye. With his vision blurred, he accepts that he's truly lost the fight. The Wanderer stands in disbelief, shocked to think that he, of all people, would actually be defeated in this confrontation. He realizes Goya's attack wasn't aimed at him, but at his sword from the very start. He acknowledges that a swordsman without a sword is just a scarecrow, but he's impressed Goya could break through his technique head-on. Goya reveals that he still has some fight left in him, expressing immense relief that he thought he was going to lose. The Wanderer sees the fragments of Goya's attack still lingering. He asks when Goya started scheming, wondering if it was from the very first attack that grazed his eye. Goya explains his eye is fine, but when he's settled, blood doesn't stop easily. He used this to trick the Wanderer into thinking he was deeply wounded, a ridiculous deception even for a predator. He laughs, remarking that the Wanderer was right about the predator stuff being nonsense. He reveals the true essence of his talent, cutting board, is the technique of safely cooking one step back in life-threatening combat. Now victorious, Goya offers to tell the Wanderer the real reason for the sheathing stance. The answer is simple: because it's cool. The Wanderer smiles as Goya laughs, saying guys who kill people have lost their minds. The Wanderer then congratulates him on a pure victory. However, just as Goya celebrates, the Wanderer strikes him down. He asks if Goya relaxed after his victory, or if he's finally reached his limit after the long and draining fight. The Wanderer apologizes for losing the match, but his resolve remains unbroken. With his broken sword held ready, he declares that despite his personal defeat, he must still complete his mission. Goya coughs up blood, pointing out that excluding today, the Wanderer had never wounded him because he never once fought seriously. The Wanderer explains that fighting is merely a means to an end for him. He admits Goya's capacity to win against him while he was holding back, renews his awe for him. Despite his respect, the Wanderer raises his broken blade, admitting that he's feeling a strong impulse to kill Goya right now. He changes his mind, stating victory and violence are different. He apologizes, realizing that defeating a weakened Goya wouldn't be acknowledged by the sword god. The Wanderer expresses his desire for a serious fight next time, using real blades. Goya points out that even with the blades back, he was still cutting through walls and buildings. Goya reflects that while surviving was expected, his mistake was using all his stamina. The settlement is now eating away at his body more than he anticipated. The Wanderer announces he's going to finish the job. Goya is shocked but collapses, realizing he lacks the stamina to chase him or even get angry. The Wanderer looks back, remarking how sorrowful it is to be weak. He tells Goya to stay collapsed, as everything will be over when he wakes up. The Wanderer pulls out a phone-like device, a square jade board, meant to show the girl's location. He struggles with the unfamiliar object, wishing he'd just been given a map instead. He realizes, with fortunate timing, that the girl is running right towards his location. Meanwhile, Goya despairs that despite surviving 2 gambles, things still aren't going his way. A cheerful, blue-haired girl suddenly appears with a bright smile, greeting the shocked Wanderer with an enthusiastic hello. She strikes him down instantly. Lying defeated on the cold ground, Goya laments that being weak is a truly miserable thing, as he now has to shamefully rely on someone else to finish the fight he started. The Wanderer is flustered, wondering who this girl is. She apologizes for the attack, explaining she assumed he was a killer since he withstood her hit. She explains that Goya told her they were targeting Miss Sionou. Full of confidence, she challenges the Wanderer, declaring that she can beat him with all her might. The Wanderer finds this situation fortunate. The Wanderer agrees, admitting that he too thought he wouldn't be able to sleep easily tonight without a proper fight. He suddenly remembers his sword is broken. Believing a swordsman without a sword is a mere scarecrow, he despairs, wondering if the sword god has finally abandoned him completely. She rushes in to attack. Meanwhile, Goya reveals his backup plan. He had contacted Frida in advance, but since his sense of smell is gone, he has no choice but to wait. Suddenly, his senses flare as he finally locates his target. He looks up from his hiding spot to see Jin Seonu standing nearby, completely unaware of the danger he's in. Seonu asks why Goya is here, explaining it's been 5 minutes since his walk, so he came back. Goya is shocked he memorized the route and returned. Seonu notices Goya's bloodshot eyes and asks if he's okay. Goya ignores the question and simply tells him to come closer. Goya pulls him in close. He holds him tightly. Goya explains his nose and eyes aren't working well, so he needs to check Seonu for injuries. He confirms he doesn't smell blood, which is a relief. Seonu stares silently for a moment before sternly warning Goya that his blood is his own and he can't waste it. He adds that if he gives it all, he'll die. Goya asks why Seonu doesn't smell like sweat after running so much. Seonu tells him to stop smelling him and asks for an explanation, which Goya refuses to give. Goya's reason is a sudden flash of light in the distance, signaling their ordeal is not yet over. The remaining operatives appear on a scooter, their headlights cutting through the darkness, confirming the danger has returned. Seonu panics, shocked that his pursuers followed him. He wonders how they found him, questioning if they can track him by his senses, much like Goya's sense of smell. Goya knows the operatives are blinded by revenge and will charge desperately. He realizes his previous threats and torture won't be enough to break their morale this time around. He wonders if his backup Frida is in combat or simply lost. His cutter knife broke, blocking the Wanderer, and now he's so exhausted he can't even move a finger, let alone project-killing intent. He concludes that no matter how he thinks about it, total annihilation is inevitable. He reflects that he still did well, considering he faced 5 or 6 operatives in his weakened state. Goya laments that he wanted to live at least until he could cook with blood. Seonu desperately tells him not to give up, promising to give him as much blood as he wants if he'll just run. Seonu pulls out his phone, but Goya tells him the police won't help. Seonu clarifies he's not calling them anyway. Goya wonders if Seonu will at least run away. Seonu, however, stands his ground, believing he can survive since he's not their target. Goya is shocked by his selfish naivete. Goya asks if he wants to live more, wondering what a wallet can do. Suddenly, the operatives are taken completely by surprise. The operatives arrive to find only Blade Rabbit in the dead end. They're confused, wondering where their target is, since the location marker definitely showed Seonu was right there with him. Goya feigns surprise, asking if it's a dead end. He taunts them, wondering if they came here wanting to die. The operative wonders if Goya somehow beat the Wanderer. Her partner tells her to look more carefully at the scene. The operative notices Goya's strange physical condition. She correctly deduces that after fighting the Wanderer, he can't possibly be fine. Her partner agrees that now is their only chance for revenge. She then turns her attention to Goya, asking if the girl is precious to him. She vows to kill him the next time they meet, just as he did to their members. To Goya's surprise, they turn and leave without a fight. As they ride away, the operative explains why she backed off. She believes Blade Rabbit is thorough and might have another trap, and she doesn't want to lose any more team members. Goya leans against the wall in relief, having survived his 3rd life-threatening gamble of the day, thanks to his initial exaggerated torture display. He reflects on telling Jin Seonu to run as if it was nothing, never expecting what would happen next. He never imagined Seonu would literally fly away into the sky. It's revealed that Seonu has a talent that erases his weight when standing on a glass cup. Seonu sighs in relief, finding the application of his ballet jumps to be incredibly refreshing and the whole situation absurd. With a talent for flight, Seonu is glad he changed out of a skirt. We're reminded of his mysterious abilities and his status as the company's largest bounty. Jin Seonu holds the company's largest bounty at 1.5 billion. He's not only the owner of the rare, golden blood, but also possesses a mysterious talent, making him incredibly fortunate. Goya reflects on his unique position. He believes he's the only one in the entire world who truly understands the immense value of what Seonu possesses, a secret that sets him apart from everyone else. The narrator sets the stage. This is a story about that, which was called humanity's natural enemy. It's a tale of the girl who came to face it, a story of gold and blood, of a human and a natural enemy. Seonu asks for feedback on his improvised plan, to which Goya simply replies that it was pretty decent. This underwhelming response leaves Seonu a little disappointed, asking if that's really all he has to say. The narrator adds a final, ominous thought. It's a story where one of them ultimately disappears from the stage. While carrying the injured Goya, Seonu asks if he was trying to get support. Goya sarcastically retorts, asking if he should be carried like a princess. As they walk, Seonu notes it was the first time he's jumped so high, casually mentioning his toenails probably broke again. Seonu cheerfully explains that jumping is the most difficult ballet technique, which he's practiced since he was young. Goya can only stare in disbelief at his ability to simply ignore gravity. Seonu asks what Goya did to get so exhausted, since he was the one running around. Before Goya can answer, Seonu walks right into a utility pole. As Goya tells him to be careful, Seonu insists the pole was already broken. Goya internally notes that Seonu didn't even sweat, deducing his powerful talent must consume immense stamina. Seonu proudly declares that he's the best in the world at running away, so there's no need to worry. Goya deadpans that he wasn't worried at all. Seonu makes Goya promise not to tell anyone about his flying ability. He reveals he can't tell his parents about the killers because he'd be grounded and forbidden from doing ballet again. Everything clicks for Goya. Seonu's talent and stamina explain how he survived numerous kidnapping attempts and even escaped the Wanderer, a feat that cost a veteran operative their life. As they continue walking, Seonu looks at Goya with a serious expression and asks a pointed question: are the people around him murderers? Goya deflects, saying politicians visit his restaurant, so knowing killers isn't strange. But Seonu presses further, asking about the swordsman he called an acquaintance. Seeing the sword marks on the road and Goya's clear exhaustion, Seonu realizes he can't hide the truth anymore. Seonu gently touches Goya's face, deducing he was beaten up. He reveals he saw Frida and the swordsman when he jumped earlier, knowing Goya couldn't have fought with his weak body. Goya is moved to tears by Seonu's rational deduction. Seonu then asks if Frida is a killer, but Goya explains she's a civilian, joking that waiters just need to know how to kick out non-customers. Seonu concludes that killers are targeting him for his rare blood, and that Goya has acquaintances who are also killers. He finds it odd, as Goya is usually the weakest person he could defeat. But he can't help but wonder why the color red, the color of blood, suits Goya so well. He finds it strangely captivating that someone could suit the blood red color so perfectly. Goya abruptly interrupts his deep thoughts, asking if the explanation is finally all done now. Goya immediately asks when he'll give the blood, reminding Seonu he risked his life for it. Though he apologizes for getting him involved, he states that even without his sense of smell, he can tell something important. He explains that ever since Seonu flew through the sky, his blood scent has deepened into a clear, overwhelming golden color. Goya insists now is the best time to taste the blood. Seonu agrees, saying he must keep his promises, but points out they never specifically decided how much he would give. A splash of golden blood. Seonu offers his golden blood. He offers the blood dripping from his finger, but Goya just stares, asking what he's doing. Seonu smiles, saying he's just giving what was asked for, telling Goya he'll have to think for himself about how to take it. Goya reminds him he said to think before the date. Seonu replies that thanks to Goya, he only knows how to give directly. Goya notes the precious blood is dripping wastefully. Seonu objects to his phrasing, saying he's just trying to help quickly. Goya, exhausted and starving, can't understand his logic at all. Having sweated and bled so much, Goya concludes that he's going to need quite a lot of blood to recover. Goya kneels before him, taking his hand. Seonu doesn't know why he's doing this. Goya warns that there might not be a single drop left. Seonu doesn't understand why he's getting so excited over something like this, a strange thrill running through him. Goya tells him to try it, not to act tough with a weak stomach. Seonu covers his mouth, blushing, knowing all too well how to make hearts beat faster. He tastes the golden blood. As Seonu watches with a flustered expression, Goya continues to taste the golden blood directly from his finger. Seonu pushes his head away. Suddenly, a voice from a strange blue mask commands them to cease their actions as bright lights flash all around. A voice declares they are surrounded. An entire army of masked figures has completely blockaded the road and plaza, trapping them with no apparent escape route. Seonu realizes the entire group must be killers, while Goya laments that his dulled senses failed to notice the ambush. A man in a distinctive white mask steps forward, flanked by his subordinates. He introduces himself as White Noise from the post-processing department, stating it's an honor to meet them again. The leader formally addresses Goya as Operative Blade Rabbit Sir, and the entire group of masked killers bows respectfully before him. Seonu is completely bewildered by the turn of events, questioning why all the killers are suddenly bowing their heads in honor. The words Operative and Blade Rabbit echo in Seonu's mind, connecting directly to Goya. His heart feels like it's about to burst as the horrifying truth begins to dawn on him. Goya's eye flashes with a menacing red light. At the same moment, crimson threads of energy seem to connect the two, revealing a faint skeletal pattern across Seonu's face. Goya explains that after a brief rest, he has recovered just enough to send out a shabby amount of killing intent. This small burst of energy is enough to make the overwhelmed Seonu faint in his arms. Goya confirms the group's identity as the post-processing department and asks why they've come. Their leader states they're here to process business, specifically Jin Seonu. Holding Seonu protectively, Goya glares at the assembled squad and issues a direct, chilling challenge to them. The leader recalls the famous rumor that Blade Rabbit died from settlement after effects. He points out that even if he's alive, the fact remains that he's settled and has just fought the Wanderer. The leader of the post-processing department confidently asks back if Goya really thinks they can't handle him now. A new figure in a plague doctor mask arrives, whom the leader calls Andre. Andre, also known as Crow, suggests they retreat, reminding him that their department travels for processing, not for large-scale military operations. The leader scoffs at the suggestion, telling Crow not to be arrogant. He dismisses their opponents as mere civilians and settled non-combatants. He confidently declares that Goya and his allies simply cannot be a match for their overwhelming numbers. Suddenly, Frida appears, cheerfully announcing that everyone is here. She asks where the Wanderer is, boasting she broke all his bones. Goya notes her words are lacking, but she is strong, while Crow observes Frida won't be taken down easily. With the situation now clarified and his allies present, Goya rises to his feet. He looks at the leader and asks again with chilling confidence, "Can you process this?" The leader smiles, replying, "Of course." The leader clarifies, processing means recovering the Wanderer's items, not kidnapping. He adds they must also erase witness memories, a procedure they dislike but is necessary for natural enemy-level incidents. He presents a bottle of Spotless Star Candy, a memory-erasing drug. The leader warns that if Seonu gets more entangled, the company will learn of his existence and send even stronger operatives after him. Continuing his warning, the leader tells Goya he'll face ruin just as he always has. He then offers the memory-erasing drug, leaving the final choice of dosage entirely up to Goya. Goya reflects on the deep irony of his situation, realizing he came to eat but is now forced to feed someone else. Deciding it can't be helped, Goya concludes this is the most rational choice and places a pill into Seonu's mouth. The scene shifts to a classroom where Seonu is spacing out. His friends notice his injured hand, asking if he cooked something. Back in the present, Goya suddenly throws the entire bottle of pills away. The leader is shocked, demanding why he didn't feed him a single pill. The leader demands to know why Goya isn't erasing Seonu's memory. With a chilling grin, Goya gives a simple, defiant answer that leaves the man completely speechless. "I feel like it." Goya explains it feels like feeding Seonu bad food. The leader calls this fickle behavior a, quote, predator's right, questioning why Goya would endanger everyone. Goya simply smiles, confirming he has a reason. Goya reveals his true, twisted reason for his actions. By intentionally making Seonu aware of the constant danger and emotional turmoil, the quality of his precious blood deepens, preparing the éperes ingredients perfectly. Every operative within the company is required to use a proprietary application on their phones called Heater. This app handles target locations, client requirements, and essential company notices, which most operatives keep active. They keep notifications on for critical messages from the company's CEO, a fact operative Binyeo finds deeply annoying. Usually, the director's words are useless chatter that everyone ignores, but sometimes a critical request appears that you must listen to, detailing specific targets. Reading the message, operative Binyeo realizes with a jolt that she might be a bit late to the party. The message reveals why the boss is rushing everyone. The bounty on Jin Seonu has skyrocketed from 300 million to a staggering 1.5 billion. All employees desperately want codenames, a simple form of recognition they're willing to burn their lives away for, even if it means dying alongside trash. A scarred man watches the fallout, admitting that he's still not used to processing the resignations caused by his mistakes. His companion reminds him their company trades lives, telling him not to get sentimental about necessary losses. This man is the director's direct secretary, and he's here to discuss operative Binyeo's recent betrayal. He's already handled it. Before she can react, an attacker grabs her by the throat, chiding her for spilling coffee. The assailant calmly states that food, and by extension coffee, should always be cherished. He mocks her for thinking she was safe downtown, admitting the job got a bit complicated. Suddenly, another man appears, gun drawn, informing her that a complaint has designated her A, rule violator, to B, fired. He warns her not to move. He then adds with a grin that a bullet will find its way into her even if she stays perfectly still. Binyeo realizes the situation's gravity, questioning why Owl is here. He reveals he modified the job from kidnapping to murder, getting him on the company's bad side. Meanwhile, the secretary explains that the director always watches powerful operatives like Blade Rabbit, as you never know what they'll pull. Back in the fight, the attacker questions Binyeo's talent, asking if she used up all her poison reserves when she massacred a wild dog and an entire village. He reveals he's a coward who only accepts jobs he's certain to win. The mission to let the cautious Binyeo escape has officially failed. Binyeo questions Owl, asking if he kept Blade Rabbit's survival a secret so he'd have someone to handle his dirty work. Owl cheerfully declares they've all lost their promotion chances anyway, asking if they can consider this a temporary alliance. The secretary issues a chilling order. If company regulations are not followed, codename Wild Dog is to directly fire them. With a grim and determined expression, the scarred operative known as Wild Dog simply confirms that he understands the command. The scene then shifts to a quiet room where a concerned Seonu has just woken up, immediately asking if Goya is okay. Goya awakens shirtless in a medical bed, confused as to why his clothes are off. Frida explains Andre said he had hyperthyroidism and sweated profusely, but Goya is still annoyed about being stripped without permission. Frida finds this strange since Andre supposedly treated him, but clarifies his recovery now depends entirely on his body's unique condition. Frida then casually mentions that Goya's right eye can no longer see. The news stuns Seonu, while Goya's face twists into a chilling, unsettling grin as he stares into the darkness. Goya admits he was about to ask about his eye. Frida explains that while the wound isn't normally blinding, his current state makes even small wounds fatal. He's only alive because Wanderer held back. Goya dismisses the injury, claiming he only needs one eye for cooking. He feels an urgent need to practice, lest he forget. He then summons a glowing flower, calling the recent fight an unforgettable experience. Andre questions Goya's sudden urge to cook with Lilac, especially after his body just experienced another breakdown. Frida offers to assist, but Goya brushes her off, telling her to just wait to eat as he begins to recall something important. Goya recalls the recent past. Although he couldn't eat the blood, he vividly remembers its deepened scent. He reminisces about the first time he tasted it, a metallic flavor that spread through him like a burning fire on a cold winter floor. He corrects the memory while working with dough. The sensation wasn't burning, but something warmer. He remembers it's been a long while since he performed the Lilac Fairy dance. To perfect his cooking, he must recall every sensation from that time, groping through his memories one by one to find the feeling he needs. He focuses his mind, recalling the specific temperature of the room and the delicate touch that caressed his foot like a precious child, trying to perfectly remember the texture of that skin from long ago. Goya presents the finished dish. Frida is surprised by its cute appearance and asks what it is. He calls it ravioli, a dish his master often scolded him for. Goya explains it is stuffed pasta, like dumplings. Frida eagerly decides to try the dish, taking a large bite while Goya watches her with a nervous, intense expression. Frida notes the strange cream filling and mild seasoning, which is very unusual for Goya's normally intense cooking. She finds the dish to be somehow bland, a stark contrast to the elegant dancers he was just remembering. Goya becomes flustered, making excuses about highlighting fresh ingredients. Frida, seeing him fumble for the first time, asks if he can improve it, causing his power to flare. Suddenly, Frida experiences a vision where both her and Andre's heads violently explode from the food. They recoil in terror, but Goya looks ecstatic, maniacally asking if they truly experienced their heads exploding from his cooking. Her fear is instantly replaced by delight, as she finds the sticky filling inside the ravioli to be absolutely delicious. Goya explains the sauce is made from egg yolk, cheese, and zest, with baby spinach for freshness. As he speaks, Frida sees vivid images of these new ingredients materializing in her mind. Andre muses that cooking is usually expressed through simple taste and aroma, not an abstract head-exploding phenomenon. Goya explains the weak seasoning was intentional, allowing the inner richness and aroma to burst out with the held intensity of a lilac scent, creating the explosive experience Frida felt. However, Goya denies this was his goal, stating that what he actually wants to express is just ordinary cooking. He remembers a calming song from his past, the one that plays when the purple lilac fairy appears. As the memory floods back, his hair turns white, and a brilliant purple aura ignites around him. The two sensations fuse. His true goal is revealed: to create cooking so overwhelmingly delicious that it stops your breath while eating, a sensation he wants to replicate, just like that blood. Captivated by the experience, Frida asks Goya what he calls this incredible dish. Lost in a memory of a graceful dance, he simply answers lilac. He completes the name, calling it Fairy's Ravioli. The name evokes a beautiful memory of a smiling face surrounded by gentle lilac petals. The memory crystallizes into a perfect moment of pure joy, a dancer reaching out with a radiant smile, completely lost in the beauty of the performance, a feeling he has now channeled into his cooking. For one girl, life has seemingly returned to normal. Her morning routine begins the same way every day, waking up abruptly and then immediately starting her stretches with her small dog watching nearby. She warms up her body with some light stretching, displaying an almost supernatural level of flexibility. Part of her strict regimen includes measuring her weight daily, which clocks in at a precise 44.7 kilograms. She finds it strange that after running around so much, her weight remains exactly the same. As she lies back, a sudden flash of gold in her eye reveals that something about her is far from normal. Elsewhere, Goya steps onto a scale which mysteriously reads 0. He seems pleased by this, casually noting that his toes broke again from jumping, but that it should be okay. The girl's breakfast consists of a meticulously prepared sous vide steak, which she feeds to her pet. As she gets ready, she applies cologne, reasoning that it's fine, since they probably won't be meeting anymore. Her dog reacts strangely, making her wonder if she shouldn't wear the cologne after all. She sighs, holding the bottle and questioning if it's really a problem that she likes this specific cologne. Finally ready, she announces she's going back to school, playfully scolding her dog for eating all the steak. As Seonu walks to school, he enjoys some music, blissfully unaware of the world around him. A hooded figure follows him. The strange man gets closer. However, it's just a random person on a bicycle, posing no threat as they ride past. Suddenly, a voice warns him not to be startled, making Seonu realize he could be kidnapped at any moment. He admits he let his guard down but prepares himself, knowing he can't be careless when he lands. The man is I.M. Sung-gyun, Seonu's temporary bodyguard. When accused of stalking, he calmly clarifies that bodyguards don't stalk, they observe. Sung-gyun smirks, revealing he knew Seonu was aware of him because he kept changing his gait. He warns that while kidnappers aren't a concern, calling his father, not the police, would change everything. Seonu insists the previous call was an accident. Sung-gyun calmly accepts his explanation, reassuring him that even though his father is the client, he is also on Seonu's side. As Sung-gyun starts to say something else, he walks off through a bizarre, localized snowstorm, leaving Seonu completely baffled by the strange man. A flashback reveals Goya once sliced a car with a plastic knife. He remembers hesitating to rescue Seonu, fearing he'd die if he acted half-heartedly. In that same memory, Goya panics as he realizes his location has been compromised, terrified that he's about to die a meaningless dog's death. Back in the present, Sung-kyun advises Seonu that the next time he calls his dad, it shouldn't be an accident. Sung-kyun cheekily suggests they skip school, but Seonu has had enough and just heads to class. A classmate notes Seonu smells like steak. He explains it's probably the dog food from this morning. His friends show him a video of an idol dance he posted, sharing the fun with everyone. They also reminisce about his birthday party, which he had to leave suddenly for work. His friends eagerly ask to hang out again, and Seonu says he's looking forward to it. He says it should be fun, but internally admits he isn't having fun either, accepting his strange everyday life. Seonu reflects on his chaotic life, thinking he doesn't need a black card, kidnappers, or a depraved chef. His friend then notices the band-aid on his hand, asking if a dog bit him. Seonu gets flustered, denying it was a dog and insisting the injury happened while preparing ballet materials. His friend mishears this as cooking, immediately asking if he fought with that chef again. Seonu grimaces, clearly annoyed by his friend's constant questions about his mysterious personal life. That night, Seonu lies in bed when a voice suddenly asks if he broke something. The voice belongs to Goya, who clarifies that Frida was the one who carried Seonu home. He recalls the dog's strange behavior and how all those powerful killers bowed before Goya, making him question what his true identity really is. Goya then climbs into bed, remarking how nice it is while Seonu trembles in fear, unable to speak. Goya smiles, telling the terrified Seonu that he just wants to sleep next to him too. He leans over the paralyzed Seonu, noting his body is likely too exhausted to move after the day's events, but adds that he still has things he must do. Suddenly, he shoves Seonu's face away, coldly telling him not to hang around him anymore. The room falls into silence. Goya walks away, admitting Seonu is in the way but acknowledging that even he understands Seonu kept him safe today, despite his annoyance. Goya questions if ballet is truly important, telling Seonu to just quietly dance and have fun until he dies, effectively warning him to stay out of his dangerous world. He tells Seonu their first date wasn't great and that they won't meet again. Goya adds he's smelled enough of his blood, so Seonu should just forget everything. The next morning at school, Seonu is absolutely furious, replaying how Goya barged into his room and said such infuriating things. His friend Yusul interrupts his angry mood, cheerfully telling him to check out a new social media upload. He looks at the post and is surprised to see his friend actually uploaded a photo from back then. Yusul points out that the reaction to the post is really good, and that this one has received the most hearts. He scrolls through the comments, seeing that the common reaction is very positive. As class starts, he realizes he got a lot of attention. A classmate mentions the recent string of student accidents, then asks about the restaurant from his birthday party, Rabbit Hole. His friend says he's curious because the restaurant supposedly cooks with flowers, guessing the dish must be named after a fairy. Seonu's expression darkens, realizing Goya got the materials from him for that cooking. Seonu puts on a smile, wondering if he should go. After the life-threatening chase ended, his everyday life has returned. Just then, a new transfer student stands before the class, introducing himself not as Goya, but rather as Go Chang-seok, shattering Seonu's brief return to normalcy. Seonu is absolutely livid, realizing that once an everyday life is destroyed, it can never be the same. Goya smirks, knowing it can never return to its original form, and tells the teacher he'll take the back seat, prepared for him. As he walks to his seat, he thinks to himself that this whole situation is just troublesome. Suddenly, a student explodes. He collapses onto the floor. Seonu calls out the student's name as the teacher panics, telling everyone to take him to the infirmary. But Goya calmly walks over, declaring that Sun's seat is now much better than the one in the back. He sits down right next to the horrified Seonu, who now has to deal with this terrifying new classmate. Goya adjusts his glasses, a sinister smile spreading across his face as he leans in and tells Seonu to please take care of him from now on. I hope you enjoyed today's story as much as I did. I would appreciate every like and comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you still have the day ahead of you, I wish you a wonderful rest of the day, and if you are tucked up in bed and going to sleep, I wish you sweet dreams. Bye-bye.